The story starts with our protagonist, Takumi Uruma, who is a 40-year-old salaryman, finds himself in a white room with a goddess named Norn. She explains that he was accidentally dragged into a hero summoning intended for 3 others. Because she messed up a magical patch to prevent more summonings, Takumi can't go back to Japan. To make up for it, she sends him to the world of Mildgard with a head start. Norn warns him that the kingdom summoning the heroes is actually pretty shady and doesn't have a real reason to bring them there. She rejuvenates Takumi to a 15-year-old body, gives him a massive stat boost, and grants him powerful skills like appraisal and item box. Takumi asks for production-focused abilities because he doesn't want to be a frontline fighter. Before sending him off, Norn secretly sends him 3 years into the past before the other heroes arrive, to give him time to grow strong enough to protect himself. Takumi wakes up in a meadow and realizes his body is much fitter, and his face has changed to a more handsome Western look. He checks his gear, a short sword, a bag with supplies and some money, and starts exploring. He quickly learns that his divine protection makes him level up and gain skills incredibly fast. Just by doing basic tasks, he gains skills like magic perception, foraging, and woodworking. He even crafts a makeshift spear out of a monster tree he finds. While heading toward a river, he gets jumped by a horned rabbit. He manages to kill it with his spear, gaining the spear handling skill. After washing up at the river and realizing he's no longer the old man he used to be, he follows the water downstream looking for civilization. As the sun sets, he finds a village, but it's completely abandoned and falling apart. Using his newly acquired enemy search and presence detection skills, he confirms the place is empty of monsters. He finds the least ruined house, eats some dried meat, and spends his first restless night in this new fantasy world. The next morning, Takumi checks his status and sees that his skills have already started to level up. He leaves the abandoned village and follows the river downstream, hoping to find people. He figures the village was likely ruined by monsters and expects to find a new settlement within a day or 2. To avoid sleeping outside again, he pushes his pace, using his improved physical strength to move fast. By sunset, he spots a small village enclosed by a wooden fence. On the way there, he kills 2 more horned rabbits and notices he has gained levels and basic combat jobs like warrior and maid. He realizes his spear handling has become much smoother now that the skill has leveled up. He reaches the gate of Bode Village, a small community of about 10 houses. He meets a hunter named Vanga and introduces himself as a traveling gatherer. Vanga is friendly and explains that the area is rich in medicinal herbs and ore, making it a great spot for anyone interested in crafting. Since there's no inn, Vanga invites Takumi to stay and even offers him a plot of land to build his own small cabin using the village's timber. Takumi learns that the abandoned village he found earlier was destroyed by a monster stampede 5 years ago. The villagers give him a warm welcome, and he spends his first night at Vanga's house with Vanga's wife Martha and their son Ganbo. The next day, Takumi starts building his house. To the shock of the villagers, he uses earth magic to perfectly flatten the ground. He works with the locals to put up the exterior of a simple 2-room cabin. During the process, he gains the carpentry skill. That night, he sleeps on a wooden plank inside his new home, vowing to make a proper bed the next day. In the morning, Takumi heads to the forest to chop trees to replace the timber he used. He uses smithing magic to sharpen a dull axe and finds that his new logging and axe technique skills make the work incredibly easy. Hold up. Smash like and subscribe for more hidden manga gems. Now, I dare you to comment, "I'm loving it." I bet most of you won't do it. Alright, let's continue. Back at his house, he decides to focus on production. He switches his active jobs to carpenter and blacksmith to get a bonus while crafting. Using a mix of woodworking skills and smithing magic, he builds a bed, a workbench, and other furniture. He also buys some animal fur from the village to use as a mattress. Later, Takumi helps Martha prepare dinner by dismantling the horned rabbits he caught earlier. He's surprised that he isn't grossed out by the blood, wondering if his new body is just used to this world's reality. By the end of the day, his crafting jobs and skills have leveled up significantly. On his 3rd day in the village, Takumi joins the local blacksmith Bobbin to visit a nearby iron mine. Using his appraisal skill, Takumi can easily spot high-quality ore. He also gains the mining skill, which gives him a gut feeling for where to dig. He fills his item box with iron, copper, silver, and even rare magic iron. Bobbin is impressed by how much Takumi's magical storage can hold. Back at his workshop, Takumi uses alchemy and earth magic to refine the raw ore into pure metal ingots. He spends the next few days focused entirely on this process, separating the metals and leveling up his alchemist and blacksmith jobs. By the time he finishes, he has a solid stock of iron, silver, and even specialized metals like titanium and tungsten. Takumi checks his status and notices that his earth magic and mage levels have jumped significantly because he used magic to refine his metal ingots. Even though he is only level 3, His job levels in alchemy and blacksmithing are already in the 30s. He realizes his growth speed is way faster than any normal person in this world. The next morning, Takumi gets to work making tools. He mixes carbon with iron to create steel alloy. Even though he drains his magic power multiple times, he manages to stay conscious this time. Using smithing magic, he crafts a high-quality pickaxe, shovel, and axe. He continues production until he has a full set of hammers, nails, chisels, and kitchen knives. His skills level up so much that he can now make tiny adjustments to the metal's form just by thinking about it. By the end of the day, he has finished a full set of pots and silverware for his home. The following day, Takumi visits Bobbin at the village forge to learn how to work with magic iron. Since Bobbin has very little magic power, he's happy to have Takumi help. Takumi uses his superhuman strength to swing a heavy hammer while charging the metal with magic power. Together, they forge a beautiful black magic steel short sword. Bobbin gives it to Takumi as a gift, but explains he can't enchant it with extra abilities because he isn't a magic bestower. He suggests Takumi visit a mage guild in a bigger town to find spell books on how to do it. Takumi's metalworking and magic skills continue to level up, putting his blacksmithing abilities on par with professional smiths. He uses his new skills to upgrade his spear with a magic steel tip. Next, he decides to try making potions. He visits Vanga to see a basic heal potion and uses his appraisal skill to figure out the exact recipe. A mix of Harukuku grass and water. Realizing he has no bottles, Takumi heads to the river to collect sand. He uses magic to turn the sand into glass, training his magic capacity until he has 500 potion bottles. He then joins Vanga on a hunt to find cork trees for bottle caps. During the hunt, Takumi learns to erase his presence, gaining the stealth skill. They spot a blade deer and Takumi takes it down with one clean thrust of his spear. After gathering the cork bark, he returns to the village. To prepare for high-quality potion making, Takumi needs to learn a purification spell to clean his equipment. Since he doesn't have the spell, he repeatedly stabs his own finger and heals it with light magic to force the skill to level up. Once his light magic reaches level 3, he gains the purification spell and cleans all his bottle. Takumi starts brewing. He uses magic to grind the herbs and synthesizes them with magic-infused water. The result is a superior grade potion that is much stronger than a standard one. He successfully makes 100 high-quality heal, stamina, and mana potion. Wanting to push his limits, Takumi tries to create his own custom recipe. He uses a new bestowal magic skill to charge water with healing energy before mixing it with herbs. This experiment works, creating a special intermediate heal potion that is nearly as powerful as an advanced potion. With his inventory full of supplies, Takumi realizes he is finally ready to leave the village and head toward a larger town. After 3 months in Bode Village, Takumi decides it is finally time to prepare for the journey ahead. He realizes that while he has no problem taking the lives of monsters, he might eventually have to face dangerous people like bandits or slave traders. To prepare, he spends 10 days practicing a new skill, throwing. He crafts a large supply of steel throwing knives and practices until his accuracy is perfect. With his magic steel spear and short sword ready, Takumi heads into the forest to level up his combat jobs. To boost his defenses, he intentionally eats small amounts of poisonous herbs and paralyzing mushrooms, using his magic to heal himself repeatedly until he gains poison resistance and paralysis resistance. While distracted by his training, Takumi is ambushed by a huge armored boar, a massive monster the size of a small car. His throwing knives and fireballs barely scratch its steel-like hide. As the beast charges, Takumi barely dodges, gaining the evasion and insight skill. Realizing his physical weapons won't work, he gambles on his highest level ability. He leaps toward the boar, channeling all his magic into his palm, and uses the alchemy skill decomposition directly on its head. The attack liquefies the boar's brain instantly, killing it. Exhausted and low on magic, he stores the massive carcass in his item box and continues on. During his trek, Takumi finds a small, dying spider. It is a rare, unique species of poison spider that has lost a leg in a fight. Feeling a strange connection, he uses his magic to heal it. To his surprise, a taming prompt appears. He accepts, naming the spider Keed. The act of naming triggers an evolution. Keed grows larger, regrows her leg, and transforms into a killer spider. They can now communicate telepathically, and Takumi realizes Keed is an incredibly high-level assassin-type familiar who can manipulate steel-cutting threads and deadly toxins. Takumi spends 3 more days in the forest, training his detection skills with Keed before returning to Bode Village. When he arrives, he shocks the villagers by pulling the massive armored boar out of his item box. The hunter Vanga and the blacksmith Bobbin are stunned by the prize. While the villagers are initially terrified of the giant spider on Takumi's back, they quickly accept Keed once they see she is tamed. The entire village joins in to dismantle the boar. Takumi uses his purification magic to clean the internal organs, making them safe for the villagers to eat. Martha warns him that using such rare magic for everyday chores is unheard of and could get him in trouble in the big city, as most light magic users are high-ranking church officials. In exchange for the meat and materials, Bobbin agrees to craft Takumi a full set of high-quality leather armor from the boar's armored hide. With his gear being finalized and his skills sharpened, Takumi's departure is closer than ever. The village threw a massive feast for Takumi to celebrate the successful hunt of the armored boar. Even though meat and alcohol are usually rare, everyone ate and drank until late at night. Takumi felt a deep sense of gratitude toward the villagers, realizing that their kindness gave him the resolve to survive in this new world. During the festivities, Keed, the giant spider, became surprisingly popular with the village wife. This was because she could produce high-quality spider silk, a luxury material used for durable and dirt-resistant clothing. Takumi worked with the villagers to build a spinning wheel and loom, eventually learning how to weave the silk himself. He even experimented with making elastic thread to craft comfortable underwear, which fascinated the local women. Takumi spent his final days in the village preparing his gear. With help from Bobbin the blacksmith, he crafted a custom set of armor using the armored boar's steel-like hide for the plates and blade deer pelt for the flexible joints. He used his magic to mold the tough materials and even received a gift of rare kelpie skin from Bobbin to make sturdy, waterproof boots. By the time he was finished, his dark-toned gear made him look like a professional assassin, perfectly suited for stealth in the forest. Before leaving, Takumi checked his status and saw his levels had soared. His alchemy and blacksmithing jobs were in the 40s, and his magic skills were becoming quite advanced. He had also secretly improved the village by building a stone defensive wall with earth magic and installing a hidden hand pump for their water well to make their lives easier without drawing too much attention from outsiders. After 3 months, the day of departure arrived. The entire village gathered at the gate to say a tearful goodbye. Takumi boarded a carriage owned by a peddler named Papik, who was being escorted by a C-rank adventure party called Lion's Fang. As the carriage pulled away, Takumi waved until the village disappeared from sight, feeling a bond with these people that he never experienced in his previous life. On the road, Papik and the adventurers were curious about Takumi. They were impressed by how much the villagers loved him and were shocked to learn he had a stock of 100 high-quality potions. Papik offered to buy them all, explaining that while guilds usually monopolize recipes, Takumi's unique alchemy methods made his potions original and legal to sell freely. Takumi agreed, realizing his journey to the big city was starting with a solid profit and strong allies. Papik reveals that his own appraisal skill is limited to basic descriptions and cannot see recipes or chemical compositions, which is why he is so eager to buy Takumi's superior potion. He offers 10 silver coins for each heal and stamina potion and 50 silver for each mana potion. Takumi is stunned to realize the total comes to 70 gold coins, roughly 7 million yen, which is a massive fortune since a person can live off 1 gold coin for a month. The journey to the fortress town of Volton takes 3 days. Along the way, Takumi sees his first goblins and forest wolves, which the Lion's Fang party handles easily. Upon arriving at the massive walled city, Takumi is impressed by the multicultural population, seeing beastkin, dwarves, elves, and Mazoku living together. At the city gate, Takumi pays a 5 silver entry fee since he lacks identification. The guard suggests he register with a guild to get an official ID and reminds him that his spider familiar, Keed, must also be registered. Papik explains that while the Mages Guild is corrupt and there is no dedicated Alchemist Guild, the Adventurers Guild is the best choice for him. Inside the Adventurers Guild, Takumi meets a receptionist who is briefly terrified when Keed peeks out from his coat. Takumi registers as a mage and receives an H-rank card. To maintain his status, he must complete at least 1 request per month. He immediately turns in a large batch of medicinal herbs he gathered near Bode Village. Because some of these herbs are for higher-ranked quests, the guild instantly promotes him to F-rank and pays him 90 silver coins, which he deposits directly onto his new guild card. After parting ways with the adventurers, Papik takes Takumi to his company headquarters. Takumi is shocked to find that Papik isn't just a simple peddler, but the president of a massive trading company who travels to small villages just to stay grounded. In a fancy meeting room, Takumi meets the head clerk Thomas and completes the potion trade. He receives the 70 gold coins and stores them in his item box. With the business finished, Papik asks Takumi what he plans to do next in the city. Takumi decides to visit the city library to research alchemy and magic circle, but first, he talks to Papik. Papik notices Takumi's high-quality armor and realizes he is a skilled craftsman. He asks Takumi if his company can sell the inventions Takumi made back in Bode Village, specifically the water hand pump. Papik explains that procuring water is backbreaking labor for most people, and this device would change their lives. Takumi agrees to let him sell it on the condition that some profits go back to the village and that his own name is kept out of it to avoid unwanted attention. While walking through the city, Takumi notices a foul smell. He learns that while the wealthy use magic devices for sewage, the rest of the city relies on poor laborers and occasional church priests to purify waste. Since only priests are known to use purification magic, it's a massive moneymaker for the church. Takumi realizes his own purification spell is much more versatile and efficient, but he keeps this secret for now. He checks into an inn called the Golden Wheat Pavilion, paying 1 gold coin to cover a long stay. Once settled, Takumi heads to the library. He uses a new time-space magic skill called Subspace to let Keed, his giant spider familiar, stay in a comfortable pocket dimension rather than leaving her at the inn. Inside the library, he finds that books on alchemy and magic circles are rare and considered obsolete. However, thanks to the goddess Norn's gift, Takumi can read ancient languages that modern scholars can't. He spends the entire day decoding complex magic formulas for enchanting gear with abilities like self-repair, strength boosts, and agility. Through his research, Takumi realizes why alchemy has died out. Most people lack the precise magic control needed for decomposition and reconstruction. Because his magic manipulation is so high, he can now craft artifacts on par with ancient treasures. His status screen shows his magic bestower and mage jobs leveling up rapidly. He is now capable of enchanting weapons and armor with high-level spells, potentially surpassing even the famous dwarven smiths. However, Takumi hits a practical snag. He can't perform heavy blacksmithing or alchemy in a small inn room. He returns to the Papik company to ask for help finding a workshop. Papik and his clerk Thomas suggest that because Takumi's methods are so unique and secret, he shouldn't hire regular staff. Instead, they suggest he buy a slave to help him, as a slave would be bound to keep his secrets. Thomas takes Takumi to see available properties owned by the company. The first location is a massive former noble estate. It's a literal palace that costs a fortune to rent or buy. Takumi immediately rejects it, feeling that a giant mansion is way too much for a solo craftsman and far beyond his middle-class comfort zone. Thomas takes Takumi to the second property, a mansion formerly owned by a merchant in a middle-class neighborhood. It features a 2-story building and a large storehouse in the back. Takumi decides to convert the storehouse into his workshop. Inside the house, he is particularly impressed by a luxurious bathroom with a marble bathtub, a rare find in this city. Though the house is large for one person, the bath wins him over. The rent is set at 1 gold and 50 silver per month, which Takumi finds surprisingly affordable. He pays for a full year upfront and orders wood and clay to be delivered. Before moving in, Takumi asks the innkeeper, Mora, to use his remaining deposit to prepare 50 silver worth of various lunchboxes, which he stores in his item box for his journey. Once he officially moves into the mansion, he sets Keed free to play in the garden and gets to work. He uses earth magic to repair the perimeter walls and redecorates them with white clay. In the storehouse, he sets up his workbench and uses magic to mix clay and pulverized quartz. His first major project is a Western-style toilet. In this world, toilets are usually just holes in the ground, so Takumi crafts porcelain bowls and enchants them with purification and decomposition magic. These devices automatically clean and break down waste. He installs them in his restrooms and upgrades the bathtub with a magic device for hot and cold water. He spends the next few days crafting furniture for every room, including beds, chairs, and tables, which levels up his carpentry and woodworking skill. He even buys a sofa and mattresses from a local shop to save time. Using the loom from the village and Keed's high-quality silk, Takumi weaves bedsheets and covers. His tailoring and sewing skills skyrocket during the process. While he is working, Papik visits and is stunned to see a killer spider casually helping with the weaving. Takumi explains that Keed is his familiar. When Papik uses the new restroom, he is blown away by the self-cleaning toilet. He immediately realizes the massive commercial potential and asks Takumi to produce 100 units, along with timed purification devices to clean larger areas. He warns Takumi to keep the technology a secret for now. Takumi spends the following days mass-producing the toilets. He realizes he should have outsourced the porcelain making to Papik's company and only focused on the magic engraving himself. After finishing the order, he delivers the goods to Papik. He receives 20 gold coins as an initial payment for his previous invention, the water hand pump, which is already a huge hit. Papik explains that the toilets will be sold to high-ranking nobles and the feudal lord, so the payment for those will be even higher. Takumi offers to teach Papik's craftsmen how to make the porcelain parts so he doesn't have to do the repetitive labor himself. Papik agrees but remains cautious. He explains that the Light God Church usually controls anything related to purification magic to make money. If the church finds out about a device that replaces their priests, they might cause trouble. To ensure Takumi's safety, Papik suggests that Takumi buy a slave who can act as both a bodyguard and a personal assistant to keep his secrets safe. Takumi considers the idea as he settles into his new life as a high-end magical craftsman. After delivering the extra 200 toilets and 10 purification devices to Papik, Takumi's bank balance hit a massive 15 platinum coin. Even though he's now incredibly rich, his humble personality keeps him working. Through all the repetitive crafting and cooking for himself at the mansion, his alchemy, earth magic, and cooking skills have all leveled up. Papik eventually took Takumi to the Mulen slavery company to find help. He explained that since Takumi's inventions are top secret, he needs slaves bound by contract magic who can't leak his secrets. They met the owner, Mulen, a charming older woman who runs a professional shop. Takumi was looking for two people, someone to manage the house and someone to act as a guard. First, Mulen introduced a war slave named Sophia Sylphide. She is an elf who was captured in a war 50 years ago. Despite her age, she looks like a beautiful woman in her 20s. However, she has a tragic past. She is missing her right hand, left leg, and one ear, and she's under a curse that blocks her magic. Because of a special agreement made by Mulen's grandfather, she was never sold as a sex slave, leaving her stuck at the shop for decades. Takumi used his appraisal skill and saw that her base stats and combat skills are actually legendary. He realized that if he can level up his light magic one more time to learn extra heal, he can regrow her limb. He decided to buy her for 2 platinum coins, seeing her potential as a powerful guard once she's healed. Next, Mulen introduced Maria, a beautiful young woman with reddish blonde hair who just turned 18. She had been kidnapped by thieves as a child, but was raised and educated by the slave company. She is highly skilled in housework, reading, and writing. Since she refused to do any knightly duties, she hadn't been sold yet. Takumi liked her determined attitude and bought her for 80 gold coins to run his household. Before finalizing the contracts, Takumi used a Dispel Curse spell to break the seal on Sophia's magic. If he had waited until after the slave contract was signed, the Dispel magic might have broken the slave bond too. Once the official slave crests appeared on the girls' necks, the deal was done. Sophia and Maria pledged their loyalty to him, and Takumi helped the injured Sophia into the carriage to take them both to their new home. Inside the carriage, Papik was stunned and asked if Takumi could actually regrow lost limb. Takumi admitted it was impossible for now, but hinted that with just one more level in his magic, things would change. Papik was shocked, noting that only the Pope was rumored to have such power. Sophia, hearing this, grabbed Takumi's arm in desperation, her face inches from his. Takumi reassured her that since her curse was gone, she could already use magic again. Sophia tested her power and was overjoyed to feel it flowing through her once more. Back at the mansion, Takumi told Sophia and Maria to pick their rooms on the second floor. Both girls insisted on being treated like slaves rather than guests, but Takumi brushed it off. He then introduced them to Keed. While they were terrified to see a killer spider, they were impressed by Takumi's ability to tame such a creature. When Takumi showed them the modern bathroom and explained they were free to use it, the girls were ecstatic. They marveled at the scented soap and the magic-powered hot water, rushing to bathe while Takumi headed to the kitchen. Takumi prepared a meal of bacon, omelets, and soup. When the girls finished their bath and saw him cooking, they were horrified that their master was doing servant work. Takumi insisted they eat together at the table, explaining that he wasn't used to the concept of slavery and wanted them to follow his casual style. After lunch, Takumi went to his workshop with a grim goal. He needed to level up his light magic. He repeatedly stabbed himself and used heal and cure over and over to force his skill level to rise. After hours of self-inflicted pain and constant casting, he finally reached the level required for extra heal. That evening, Takumi took Sophia to her room and cast the high-level spell. In a burst of light, her missing arm, leg, and ear grew back instantly. Sophia broke down in tears of joy, falling to her knees to pledge her eternal loyalty. Takumi, exhausted from the magic usage, told her he did it for his own sake so she could be a better guard, but the emotional impact on Sophia was life-changing. The next morning, Takumi discussed their future. He planned to travel the world to find new materials and see the sights. He decided that both Sophia and Maria would accompany him, meaning Maria needed combat training. After checking their stats with appraisal, he saw that Sophia was a legendary warrior despite her 50-year gap, and Maria had the potential to be a battle maid with talent in 3 types of magic. Takumi decided to register them at the Adventurers Guild and craft custom gear for them using high-armored boar materials and magic steel. That night, a significant shift occurred in their relationship. Sophia came to Takumi while he was bathing, offering herself to him out of genuine love and gratitude rather than slave duty. Takumi, unable to resist her beauty and sincerity, accepted her. By morning, their bond had deepened far beyond master and servant. While the girls spent the following days training in the garden, Takumi locked himself in the workshop. He used his smithing and alchemy skills to forge high-quality spearheads and a longsword. He used advanced techniques to manipulate the carbon structure of the metal, creating blades that were incredibly sharp and magic-compatible. He engraved Sophia's spear with a wing design and Maria's with a flame, enchanting them with self-repair and attack boost. Despite his wealth, Takumi felt a deep satisfaction in crafting these weapons himself to ensure his companions were well protected. Takumi continued his work in the workshop, focusing on weapons for his new companions. He understood that while any skilled warrior could coat a normal blade in magic, weapons made from magic-conductive metals like magic steel or mithril were far superior. For Maria, he crafted a versatile set: a large 30 cm knife, a double-edged dagger, and a small concealed knife for her thigh, admitting to himself that the battle-made aesthetic was too cool to pass up. He enchanted these with the same self-repair and attack boosts as the spears. With the weapons finished, Takumi moved on to armor. He used the hide and scales of the high-armored boar, the same materials he used for his own gear. He added enchantments for automatic size adjustment, physical defense, and temperature regulation. To ensure a perfect fit, he had to take Sophia and Maria's measurement. The process was incredibly awkward. Both girls blushed deeply, and Takumi struggled to keep his composure, eventually retreating to the workshop with a nosebleed, feeling overwhelmed by his good fortune in this new life. He added personal touches to the gear, engraving wing patterns for Sophia and flames for Maria. He also crafted custom boots using blade deer pelt and rubber soles synthesized through alchemy for modern comfort. For their underarmor, he used Keed's elastic spider silk to weave durable, form-fitting pants and shirts. To keep things modest, he added miniskirts made of reinforced silk over the pants so their figures wouldn't be too exposed to others. During these days of preparation, the relationship between the three deepened further. One evening, Maria followed Takumi into the bath, expressing that while she respected Sophia's bond with him, she also wanted to dedicate herself fully to him. Takumi's resolve crumbled and they shared an intimate night. Afterward, both girls made it clear they never wanted to be freed from their contracts, viewing Takumi as the person who gave them a new life and treated them with genuine respect. Once the gear was ready, the group headed to the Adventurers Guild to register the girls. Sophia registered as a swordsman and Maria as a warrior, both starting at H rank. While they were checking the bulletin board for easy quests, three low-life adventurers, a large man named Devule and his two cronies, began harassing them. They insulted Takumi and made gross comments about taking the girls for a few days. Takumi stepped forward to protect them. When Devule swung a massive punch at his face, Takumi didn't dodge. Instead, he used his alchemy to instantly coat his body in a layer of diamond-hard carbon. Devule's fist shattered against Takumi's face with a sickening crunch. When the other two tried to attack, they suffered the same fate, leaving all three thugs rolling on the floor in agony. The commotion brought out the guild master, a tough man named Barak, and the receptionist, Hans. After hearing that the thugs started the fight, Barak called Takumi's party into a private room. Barak, sensing the residual magic, realized Takumi had used a high-level trick. Takumi explained he was an alchemist and had used a defensive transmutation, though he kept the exact details of the diamond shield vague. Hans noted that while Takumi was registered as a mage, his gear made him look like a warrior. With the air cleared, the guild master turned his attention to Sophia and Maria. Recognizing that this group was far more capable than their low ranks suggested, Sophia and Maria removed their hoods, revealing their faces. Hans was surprised to see a warslave elf and a talented girl like Maria, noting that it made sense why they hid their identities to avoid trouble from thugs like Devule. He suggested that Takumi should reach D rank as soon as possible to keep the harassment down. Hans then proposed a deal. He would personally select high-efficiency quests for them to help them rank up quickly. Takumi discussed it with the girls and they agreed, wanting to become strong enough to be useful. While Hans went to grab the paperwork, the guild master Barak pulled Takumi aside. He pointed out that as an alchemist, Takumi was technically a production class and suggested he might need another guard. However, finding a male guard for a party with two beautiful women would be tricky. Barak also complained about the Church of Sydney hogging all the healers, making it hard for normal adventurers to find medical support. Takumi realized he had actually been transported to this world 3 years before the hero summoning he was originally supposed to be part of. Hans returned with 3 beginner quests, hunting goblins, kobolds, and gathering medicinal herbs. The group headed southwest of town to a forest area. Sophia warned them that goblins are a nightmare for women and often live in large groups. Using their detection skills, they found a scout party of 4 goblins. Takumi and Maria took the 2 on the left, while Sophia handled the others. They moved in with their custom spears, finishing the monsters easily. After collecting the ears as proof and digging out magic stones, Takumi used earth magic to bury the bodies. As they moved deeper, the number of goblins increased significantly. Keed, the spider familiar, joined in, using her invisible silk threads to take down enemies before they even saw her. Sophia realized this wasn't just a random group. They had likely found a massive colony led by a goblin general, a C-rank monster. Normally, it would take 5 D-rank parties to clear a colony of 400 goblins, but Takumi decided they could handle it themselves using magic. They launched a massive surprise attack. Sophia used wind blades, Maria used rock spikes, and Takumi unleashed a firestorm. The magic wiped out 2/3 of the colony instantly. The trio then rushed into the remaining crowd. Takumi fought with a spear in one hand and a sword in the other, his movements becoming sharper as his skills leveled up mid-battle. The goblin general finally appeared, standing over 6 feet tall and flanked by 4 armored goblin knights. Sophia took on 2 knights, while Takumi and Maria each handled 1. After Takumi and Maria finished their opponents, Takumi went straight for the general. He felt a massive rush of adrenaline, entering a zone where he could predict the monster's every move. Despite being a craftsman, he fought like a legendary warrior, dodging the general's massive blade and landing precise strikes. He eventually pinned the monster with his spear and delivered a finishing blow, decapitating the general with his sword. The battle resulted in a massive level jump for everyone. Takumi's mage job evolved into Magus, a high-tier magic class, and he earned the title Giant Killer. After the fight, Keed announced she was ready to evolve. She entered Takumi's subspace and emerged as an Archanai, a creature with a spider's lower body but the upper body of a cute, white-haired girl. Sophia and Maria were charmed by her new look, and Takumi realized he now needed to use his tailoring skills to make her some clothes. After the battle, Takumi checked his party's stats. Sophia was a high-level spirit mage and knight, Maria had grown into a solid warrior and thief with multiple magic attributes, and Keed, in her new Archanai form, possessed powerful thread and poison skill. Takumi noticed they were all covered in monster blood, so he used purification magic to clean everyone up. Following Sophia's advice, he stored the bodies of the goblin general and the 4 goblin knights whole in his item bag to show the guild as proof. They spent a long time collecting ears and magic stones from the hundreds of other goblins. During the cleanup, Maria found the general's weapon, which Takumi identified as the Greatsword of the Absorber, a cursed magic sword that steals mana and gets stronger with every hit. Since no one in the party used greatswords, Takumi decided to keep it to reforge later. To prevent the corpses from turning into undead, they burned the mountain of bodies and used water magic to ensure they didn't start a forest fire before heading back to Volton. They reached the city just before the gates closed and went straight home to bathe and sleep. The next morning, the group went to the Adventurers Guild. Hans greeted them and took them to a private room for safety. When Takumi reported that they had finished all 3 quests, including the massive goblin colony, in just one day Hans was stunned. He immediately went to fetch the guild master, Barak. Barak arrived and demanded a full explanation. Takumi detailed how they found the colony of over 400 goblins and wiped them out with a massive magic ambush. Barak scolded them, explaining that a colony led by a general is considered an army and usually requires multiple high-rank parties to handle. He was shocked that an F-rank and H-rank party took it down, though he admitted having a rare spirit mage like Sophia made it more believable. Takumi also mentioned he was making high-quality potions, but since selling them would cause trouble with the Alchemist Guild, he was only selling them through Paypick for now. Hans returned with the rewards and their updated cards. The total payout for the subjugation and materials came to over 18 gold coins. Takumi was promoted to E-rank, while Sophia and Maria reached F-rank, with the note that they'd hit E-rank after just one more quest due to the guild's promotion rules. Back at the mansion, Takumi decided to focus on crafting while the girls practiced their combat and sewing skills with Keed. To level up his weaker magic and his bestowal skill, Takumi came up with a training method. He kept water and wind orbs spinning around him constantly while he worked at the forge. He used his alchemy to create a silver alloy and began crafting magic rings for the party. He carved wing designs for Sophia, flames for Maria, and a crescent moon for himself. To make the rings truly powerful, he pushed his mana to the limit, drinking mana potions to keep going until he artificially transformed the metal into divine silver. The process was exhausting, but the resulting rings were incredible, providing massive boosts to magic power and control. He finished them off by enchanting them with automatic size adjustment, providing the party with top-tier magic tools. After appraising the finished rings, Takumi saw their names had upgraded to Divine Silver Magic Ring, which provided massive boosts to magic power, manipulation, and size adjustment. The intense crafting session also leveled up his water and wind magic, allowing him to intuitively learn ice and lightning magic. He tested his new powers by manifesting a block of ice and coating his arm in electricity, realizing he could use these elements to invent modern conveniences like refrigerators for the Paypick Company. Maria, meanwhile, reflected on her journey. After her village was destroyed by thieves, she was sold to the Mulen Slavery Company. Unlike other brokers, Mulen treated the children well, educating them in etiquette, literacy, and combat. Maria had feared being sold to a cruel noble, but she was relieved when Takumi bought her alongside the legendary elf warrior Sophia. She was deeply moved by Takumi's kindness, especially after he dispelled Sophia's curse and healed her missing limbs, a feat thought impossible for anyone but the highest priest. Having shared an intimate night with him, Maria and Sophia both dedicated their lives and hearts to protecting Takumi and his secrets. Their peaceful training was interrupted early one morning when Papik visited the mansion with an urgent request. Lord Godwin von Volten, the Margrave of the region, had requested an audience with Takumi. Papik explained that Takumi's inventions, the hand pump and the magic toilets, had already significantly improved the city's sanitation and smell. Though Takumi felt anxious about meeting such a high-ranking noble, Papik and the girls reassured him. They traveled to the castle, which was a massive fortress surrounded by a moat. During the ride, Papik explained that the local peace was fragile. While there hadn't been a major war in 50 years, no official peace treaty existed with the neighboring kingdom. Upon arriving, they were led to a guest room and eventually met Lord Volten, a well-built man with a friendly personality. He was joined by his superintendent, Zervis, and the knight commander, Dorn. Lord Volten surprised Takumi by immediately bowing and thanking him for his inventions. Zervis explained that the hand pumps had drastically reduced manual labor for the citizen, and the new magic toilets had solved a centuries-old sewage problem. By purifying the septic tanks, Takumi had effectively prevented potential epidemics and improved the lives of everyone in the city, including those in the slum. Takumi humbly tried to downplay his role, noting he was being paid for his work, but the Lord insisted his contribution was invaluable. The conversation then turned to more serious matters. Dorn, the Knight Commander, revealed he had received a report from the Adventurers Guild. He acknowledged that the Knight Order had completely overlooked a massive goblin colony less than a day's walk from the city. He expressed his shock and gratitude that Takumi's small party had managed to wipe out an entire monster army that would have normally required a massive military response. Dorn thanked Takumi for taking care of the goblin colony, explaining that the Knights usually clear the outskirts but missed this specific group. Takumi tried to apologize for overstepping, but the Knights laughed it off, glad the threat was gone. Zervis noted that while Takumi is an alchemist, having a legendary warrior like Sophia in his party makes their victory more believable. Lord Volten urged Takumi to stay safe, as his inventions were now vital to the entire kingdom. Takumi received an additional 50 gold coins from the Lord as a reward before heading home. Exhausted from the formal meeting, the group relaxed at the mansion. Takumi decided to focus on his next project, improving the local underwear. He found the world's current options, simple wraps and drawstring trunks, unreliable for active adventurers. He used earth magic to create mannequins of Sophia and Maria to ensure a perfect fit. Working with Keed, he produced elastic spider silk and dyed it in various colors. He crafted sports bras and panties for combat, as well as more stylish sets for home. He enchanted the garments with automatic size adjustment, temperature regulation, and dirt resistance, which boosted his sewing skill significantly. When he showed the results to the girls, they were embarrassed but loved the comfort and style. Takumi eventually shared the designs with Papuk, and the new underwear quickly became a massive hit among the wealthy. Focusing back on magic devices, Takumi decided to tackle food storage. While he had his item box, Maria needed a way to keep ingredients fresh in the kitchen without constantly asking him for help. He used alchemy to create stainless steel and synthetic rubber, then inscribed cooling and boundary magic circles to build a modern-style refrigerator. He made several units in different colors, choosing a light blue one for their home and planning to sell the rest to Papik. Meanwhile, in the Divine Empire of Sydney, the hero summoning finally took place. 3 18-year-olds from Japan, Akira, Yamato, and Akin, appeared in a summoning circle. They were greeted by Princess Elizabeth, who begged them to save the world. Akin immediately felt something was wrong. Her intuition told her the princess was untrustworthy. While they were being presented to Pope Warval, Akin received a unique skill called Divine Oracle from the goddess Norn, which confirmed her suspicions. The Pope claimed the world was being ruined by monsters and subhumans, but the luxury of the court made Akin doubt his story. Despite her concerns, Akira and Yamato were easily swayed by the promise of being heroes and agreed to help. Akin realized she would have to play along for now while looking for a way to escape. The group was then asked to use an appraisal device to reveal their stats and skills. The 3 heroes placed their hands on the appraisal device, and the head Imperial Mage was thrilled to see their high starting stats. Akira received the hero job with balanced stats and light magic, while Yamato became a warrior with high physical strength. Akin's stats favored magic and intelligence. However, she used her skills to hide her divine oracle ability from the device. While Akira and Yamato were easily impressed by their new titles and the fancy rooms provided by Princess Elizabeth, Akin remained on high alert. Behind closed doors, the Pope and his officials discussed the heroes. They realized that because all three possessed the appraisal skill, they couldn't trick them into wearing slavery collars. However, they planned to use Princess Elizabeth to manipulate Akira, who seemed easy to deceive. They remained unaware that their device couldn't detect divine protections, nor did they realize the goddess had already sent Takumi into the world years prior to balance the scale. In Volton, Takumi's new inventions were a hit. After giving Sophia and Maria their magic rings, he partnered with the merchant Papik to mass-produce his magic-powered refrigerators. With his finances and daily life stable, Takumi decided it was time to upgrade the girls' gear. He planned to move past magic iron and create equipment from top-tier metals like mithril and adamantite. Both girls agreed, realizing better gear would help them protect Takumi more effectively. Takumi headed to the Adventurers Guild to research mining location. The staff member Hans explained that while mithril and adamantite ores exist, they are incredibly hard to refine because they require massive amounts of magic power. Most human blacksmiths can't handle them, making such weapons rare. Hans suggested Takumi visit the dwarven mining town of Horyua. To get permission to mine there, Takumi would need to take on monster subjugation requests within the mines. Before leaving, Takumi visited a local dwarven blacksmith named Daganbo. Initially skeptical, Daganbo was shocked when he saw the quality of a sword Takumi had forged. He realized Takumi was a rare alchemist who could actually refine magic metals alone. Daganbo explained that forging mithril isn't much different from iron once refined, though orichalcum is a different story. Excited by Takumi's potential, Daganbo asked to join the trip to Horyua's to help with the mining. Papik provided a carriage pulled by a fast demon horse in exchange for a share of the refined metals. Meanwhile, the guild master Barak asked Takumi for a favor. The town was running low on treant wood because most adventurers were busy hunting black buffalo. Since Takumi had space-time storage magic, Barak wanted him to stop at the Forest of Death on the way to Horyua's to collect wood. Takumi accepted, as this would also rank him and the girls up in the guild. To prepare for the treant hunt, Takumi forged new magic steel axes for the girls. He also worked on a special project, breaking down a massive greatsword he had looted from a goblin general. Despite the metal's heavy resistance, he used his alchemy and mana potions to reshape the material into two swords of the absorber. These bluish magic swords could drain an enemy's mana to increase their own attack power. He gave one to each girl, ensuring they were ready for the journey. 3 days later, the group gathered at the city gates. Daganbo took the driver's seat of Takumi's carriage, eager to get his hands on rare ores. They were joined by the Lion's Fang adventure party, led by Heath, who would accompany them as far as the Forest of Death. With their gear upgraded and their team assembled, the group set off for the forest. The group set off in 2 carriages, heading toward the dwarven town of Horyua. On the second day of the journey, they reached the outskirts of the Forest of Death, a place dense with magic and dangerous monsters. During their first night of camping, Lyle from the Lion's Fang party was restless, clearly jealous of Takumi traveling with 2 beautiful girls like Sophia and Maria. He tried to flirt with them, but both girls shut him down immediately, declaring their total loyalty to Takumi. The next morning, the group continued their trek. While Takumi still felt like an amateur compared to the veteran adventurers, Heath noted that Takumi's combat skills were actually quite impressive for an artisan. As they reached the forest's edge, the 2 parties split up to hunt treants. Sophia, being an elf, used her connection with spirits to track them, while Takumi used his high magic perception to spot the creatures camouflaged as normal trees. Takumi jumped into the fight, using a steel axe to hack at the treants. While he struggled to flow mana through the basic steel, Sophia and Maria easily sliced through the monsters with their new magic steel gear. Keed also helped by shredding the treants' defensive roots with her sharp threads. After defeating several treants and leveling up his logging and axe skills, Takumi switched to wind magic, finding that his new magic rings significantly boosted his power. Suddenly, a massive elder treant emerged from the ground. This was a rank B threat that shouldn't have been at the forest's edge. The creature lashed out with thick, powerful roots, but the team coordinated perfectly. Sophia used spirit magic, Maria burned the roots with fire, and Takumi used physical reinforcement to strike the trunk with his axe. After an intense struggle, Takumi delivered the final blow. Among the remains, they discovered apples of miracles, a rare fruit that restores magic power. They packed up the entire elder treant for materials and moved to regroup. Back at the meeting point, Takumi used his storage magic to pack away the massive amount of wood the other party had gathered. Before they parted ways, Heath gave Takumi a serious warning about the reality of the world, explaining that he might eventually have to kill thieves to protect his companions. Takumi realized that while he still held Japanese moral, his mind had been adjusted by the goddess Norn to handle the harshness of this new life without breaking. The Lion's Fang party headed back to Volton, while Takumi's group pushed forward into a rocky, desolate landscape. They were frequently attacked by rock lizards, but Maria easily took them down using water magic. While dismantling the monsters, Takumi learned their scales could be used for armor and their livers for medicine. Relying on Sophia's ability to sense incoming threats and Takumi's own healing magic, the group continued their steady journey toward the dwarven mine. After descending into the valley, the group arrived at the mining town of Horyua. Diganbo warned them that the town was rough, filled with miners and criminal slaves, so they needed to stay alert. They checked into a sturdy inn called the Badger's Set Pavilion, run by an old acquaintance of Diganbo's named Nora. To Takumi's slight surprise, Sophia insisted on a single room for the dwarf and one shared room for the three of them. After a meal of heavily seasoned dwarven-style food, they rested for the night. The next morning, they headed to the local adventurers guild. Since Sophia and Maria needed to rank up, they took a permanent request to hunt iron moles, monsters that eat ore and cause tunnel collapses. Diganbo joined them, as his blacksmith guild membership allowed him free access to the mines. They chose the third tunnel, which was famous for containing both mithril and adamantite, but was often ignored by others because the metals were so hard to refine. Inside the dim tunnels, they easily swatted away sonic bats before reaching a rich vein. Diganbo taught Takumi how to spot mithril by its faint magic glow. Takumi tested his alchemy on a piece of ore and found that while it took more mana than iron, he could refine it into pure mithril instantly. As they moved deeper to find adamantite, a heavy black metal even stronger than mithril, Keed sensed an iron mole approaching. Takumi had a hunch that since the moles lived in total darkness, they would be sensitive to light. When the monster burst from the ground, he cast a simple light spell, instantly blinding and knocking it out. Maria finished it off easily. They turned the hunt into an efficient routine. Keed tracked the moles, Takumi blinded them, and the girls finished them off. By the time they finished, Takumi had stored a massive amount of rare ore and enough mole claws to complete their quest. On the return trip to Volton, they stopped at the Forest of Death to fulfill their promise of gathering treant wood. Sophia and Maria handled the combat this time to improve their skills, while Takumi and Keed provided support. After securing wood from 5 treants, they continued their journey. The peace didn't last long. As they neared the end of the forest, Sophia's connection with the spirits warned her of 20 thieves lying in wait. Remembering the veteran's advice about the harshness of this world, Takumi didn't hesitate. He sent Keed to silently take out the archers while he and the girls launched a surprise magic attack from the carriage. The battle was quick but intense. When the bandit leader threatened to kill Takumi and assault the girls, Takumi jumped from the carriage and ended the man's life with a precise spear strike. It was his first time killing a human, and while it felt different from hunting monsters, he realized the goddess had truly prepared his mind for this reality. After stripping the bodies for loot and guild cards, they buried the remains and headed home. Inside the carriage, Sophia and Maria comforted Takumi, sensing the weight of his first human kill, though Takumi was mostly surprised by how quickly his mind had accepted the necessity of the act. Takumi settled back into life in Volton, enjoying being pampered by Sophia and Maria. He realized that while killing the bandits was a heavy experience, the goddess had mentally prepared him for the harshness of this world. He understood that in a place without formal education or stability, people often fell into crime just to survive, but he chose not to dwell on the hard stuff. To him, enjoying a peaceful life with his companions was more important than solving the world's systemic problem. At the Adventurers Guild, Takumi handed over the treant wood and reported the bandit attack. Hans was impressed by the haul, especially the elder treant material. Half of the rare wood was sold to the guild for a high price, and Takumi was officially promoted to D rank. Later at home, the group celebrated with a meal and a bath. Takumi's excitement at seeing the girl's beauty helped him fully shake off the lingering gloom from the bandit encounter, proving he was back to his usual self. The next morning, Takumi headed to Diganbo's workshop to begin refining the massive haul of ore. Since Diganbo's furnace couldn't handle the high melting points of mithril and adamantite, the task fell entirely on Takumi's alchemy. For 2 grueling days, he used his mana to extract and synthesize the metals, constantly chugging mana potions to keep going. By the end, he had processed a small mountain of ore into pure ingots. Diganbo was so impressed that he shared his secret alloy recipes, and Takumi saw his job levels in alchemy and smithing skyrocket. After a few days of rest, Takumi returned to the forge to learn the actual art of blacksmithing. Diganbo showed him how to create mithril alloys by mixing the metal with magic iron and monster materials like salamander gallstones to add elemental attribute. Takumi realized that by incorporating these elements directly into the metal during the forging process, he could create weapons with built-in powers without using up enchantment slots. Taking these lessons to the next level, Takumi used his advanced science knowledge from Earth. He experimented with adding trace amounts of tungsten, cobalt, and titanium to adamantite to create a perfect balance of hardness and flexibility. Using a mix of smithing magic and alchemy, he designed a complex blade structure with a tough core and a razor-sharp edge. He didn't stop there. He pulverized an ice-charged magic stone and fused it into the metal, turning the black adamantite a deep, chilling blue. After adding enchantments for self-repair and increased piercing power, he assembled the final weapon using elder treant wood for the handle and mithril for the guard. The result was Icebringer, a spear of national treasure rarity. Daganbo could only stare in shock, realizing that Takumi's preposterous methods had created a weapon far beyond the reach of normal blacksmith. Takumi decided it was time to upgrade the team's armor. While their current gear made from monster leather and spider silk was decent, it lacked the capacity for high-level enchantments. He chose to use a mithril alloy, which offered incredible magic resistance and physical strength while remaining light enough for Sophia and Maria. Takumi's vision for the new gear went beyond basic protection. He planned to weave mithril threads directly into spider silk to create a reinforced fabric that was both flexible and incredibly tough. He spent several days painstakingly refining the metal into fine threads, eventually crafting white one-piece dresses for the girls and a gray tactical outfit for himself. To complete the set, he forged mithril breastplates, bracers, and greaves. To push the gear even further, Takumi experimented with magic crystals. By overcharging magic stones with elemental energy, he created rare magic crystals and fused them into the mithril. He discovered he could even combine elements, creating a lightning wind alloy for himself, a water wind blend for Sophia to boost her agility, and a fire-earth mix for Maria to enhance her defense and attack power. The finished armor was a masterpiece. Sophia's gear had a blue-silver tint, Maria's glowed with a reddish hue, and Takumi's shone with a pale green light. When they tried them on, the girls looked divine, and the built-in enchantments, like temperature regulation and self-repair, made the suits incredibly practical. However, Takumi's extra-large agility boost was so powerful that he accidentally launched himself across the garden during a test run. It took some intense training and a new high-speed thought process skill for his brain to finally keep up with his new top speed. Next, Takumi finished their weapon. Using the same advanced alchemy, he created 2 more national treasure-grade spears to match his own. He gave Sophia Tempest, a wind elemental spear that could launch air slashes, and gave Maria Explode, a fire elemental spear that could shoot fireballs like a dragon's breath. Both girls were thrilled with the massive power boost. Finally, Sophia made a serious request. As Takumi's primary guard, she wanted a shield to ensure she could protect him from any threat. Takumi agreed and headed back to his workshop to design a specialized mithril shield that would be light enough for long battles, but strong enough to release magic shockwaves during a shield bash. Takumi crafted a specialized 50 cm round shield for Sophia, using a high-grade mithril alloy infused with wind and water attributes. He engraved it with an air bomb magic circle, allowing her to trigger shockwaves or boost her magic power. The shield was packed with enchantments, including increased agility, magic resistance, and self-repair, perfectly completing her elite gear set. With their equipment ready, the group settled into a routine of crafting potions and taking guild requests. However, their peace was interrupted when the merchant Papik visited with a serious request. He revealed that Takumi's inventions, the hand pump, purifying toilets, and magic refrigerators, had become massive hits in the royal capital after being presented to the king. This success drew the unwanted attention of the Divine Empire of Sydney. The Empire's Light God Church, which hoards recovery magic for profit, demanded the rights to Takumi's purification magic circle, claiming all light magic belongs to them. They even threatened to withdraw their priests from the kingdom if the creator wasn't handed over. Fortunately, the king mocked their demands, as the kingdom primarily follows the Genesis Church of Goddess Norn, whose priests provide healing for free or small donation. Since the Empire's priests only care about money, their departure wouldn't actually hurt the common people. To protect Takumi and show gratitude for the king's support, Papik and Margrave Volton arranged for Takumi to travel to the royal capital, Valkyrados. To keep his identity as a genius inventor secret, Takumi will go undercover as a hired guard for Papik's sales unit. The journey will take about 10 days by demon horse carriage. While Takumi felt some pressure about meeting royalty, Sophia and Maria were excited for their first trip to the capital. To prepare for the long journey and the crowds of the capital, Takumi decided to make new overcoats for everyone. He used rare dark attribute magic stones to enchant the garments with inhibit perception. This magic makes it difficult for others to notice or remember them, which is essential for Sophia and Maria, whose beauty often attracts trouble. He also added presence concealment to help in combat and stealth. Working in his workshop with Keed, Takumi used her high-quality spider silk, reinforced with thin mithril threads to weave the fabric. He created matching black overcoats for the whole team, including a custom one for Keed to aid her assassin-style fighting. With their gear finished and inhibit perception active, the group felt ready to head toward the heart of the kingdom. Keed's evolution into an arachne significantly improved the quality of her silk, allowing Takumi to push his enchanting limits. He successfully crafted 4 overcoats of existence concealment using arachne silk and mithril thread. These coats provide stealth, physical resistance, and temperature regulation, but their most important feature is inhibit perception, which prevents strangers from noticing or remembering Sophia and Maria's striking beauty. To stock up for their upcoming journey to the capital, Sophia and Maria went on a massive shopping spree. With the city flooded with black buffalo meat from a recent migration, they spent 20 gold coins, roughly 2 million yen, on 200 kilos of premium beef, plus chicken, pork, and vegetable. They stored everything in a newly invented time-stop magic bag Takumi created, which has the interior space of a gymnasium and keeps food perfectly fresh. During their walk, the girls discussed their loyalty. Sophia, a war slave, and Maria, a former orphan, both agreed that even if Takumi freed them, they would never leave his side. Takumi visited the Church of the Genesis Faith to thank Goddess Norn. To his surprise, Norn pulled his spirit into her divine sanctuary for a chat. She revealed a major secret. She had intentionally sent Takumi into this world 3 years before the other heroes to give him a head start. This means the hero's summoning in the Empire hasn't happened yet in Takumi's current timeline. Norn encouraged him to keep visiting the church before sending him back. With a 10-day trip to the capital ahead, Takumi decided to build a custom carriage. At Maria's suggestion, they decided to hunt for a legendary mount instead of using normal horses. They set their sights on a dragon horse, a powerful creature with rhinoceros-like horns and dragon scales, which is faster and tougher than any demon horse. The party headed to the vast grasslands near the Forest of Death to begin their search. Using their new enchanted overcoats, they easily ambushed monsters like bush wolves and a massive long-horned bull. Keed proved her lethality by using invisible threads to trip and decapitate the bull mid-charge. They also encountered a group of 5 orcs. Sophia and Maria, disgusted by the monsters, wiped out 4 with long-range wind and earth magic, while Takumi engaged the last one in melee. Using his Ice-Bringer spear, he froze the orc's limbs before delivering a fatal blow to its neck. Finally, Takumi's enemy search picked up a massive struggle nearby. A swarm of over 20 army ants, each a meter long, had surrounded a rare dragon horse. The ants were trying to wear it down with their powerful jaws and formic acid. Takumi and his team charged in. Sophia's Tempest spear launched the ants into the air with gales. Maria's Explode spear incinerated their insides, and Takumi used the blunt end of his adamantite spear to shatter their exoskeleton. Takumi finished the last ant by using decomposition directly on its brain, saving the wounded dragon horse just in time. After the army ants were wiped out, the dragon horse collapsed from its wound. Takumi approached the creature, and with Keed by his side, the monster stopped snarling and accepted his offer to become a familiar. Takumi used High Heel to instantly fix its scales and bite marks, then officially tamed it. He named the female drake horse Tsubaki, inspired by her deep green scales and crimson eyes. Tsubaki showed impressive stats, especially in stamina and speed, though Keed noted that Tsubaki wouldn't be able to use telepathy until she evolved again. The group tested Tsubaki's strength by having her pull their carriage back to Volton, where Takumi registered her at the guild. While there, Hans was shocked by Takumi's growing collection of tamed monsters and his unconventional fighting style. During the visit, Sophia and Maria were promoted to D-rank adventurers for their past performance against thieves. Back at home, Takumi spent his time building a high-tech carriage. He used adamantite alloy for the frame, elder tree wood for the body, and mithril panels for magic resistance. He even installed a suspension system with oil dampers for a smooth ride and enchanted the glass windows for durability. The interior was expanded using space magic, turning it into a luxury room with a kitchen, sofa, and a large bed. To match the carriage, Takumi crafted a full set of adamantite armor for Tsubaki. During a trial run in the grasslands, the carriage proved to be incredibly fast and stable, even at speeds over 100 km/h. They used the trip to complete a guild request by trampling a pack of orcs that were trying to form a colony. Maria took a liking to the high-speed driving, even suggesting they add blades to the sides of the carriage to make it more lethal. After a few days of leveling up Tsubaki and getting her used to the armor, she grew much stronger and more eager to evolve. On the day of their departure to the royal capital, the group met at the eastern gate to join the convoy, which included Margrave Volton and the Papic Company. The sight of Tsubaki and the black and silver carriage caused a massive stir. The guild master, Barak, was stunned to see a legendary drake horse, and the Margrave's chamberlain, Zervis, immediately recognized the rare materials used in the build. When Takumi casually explained that the entire frame was made of adamantite and the walls were mithril, the surrounding nobles and merchants were left speechless by the sheer value and power of his creation. Takumi explained that the carriage windows are made of tempered glass enchanted with physical resistance and self-repair, making them nearly indestructible. When he showed Margrave Volton and Papic the interior, they were stunned to find a luxury living space with a kitchen, restroom, and beds, all made possible by Takumi's space expansion magic. Though they assumed it cost a fortune, Takumi casually mentioned he gathered all the materials and built the magic devices himself, making his only real expense his own labor. Impressed by his skill, the Margrave commissioned Takumi to build a similar carriage for a massive labor fee of 200 platinum coins. The convoy set off for a 10-day journey to the royal capital, Valkyrados. Because they were traveling with the Margrave, they moved at a standard pace rather than using Tsubaki's full speed. During the first night at a village, Lyle and the Lion's Fang party visited Takumi's carriage. Lyle was blown away by the luxury, especially after Maria let slip that Takumi already has more money than he could ever spend. Meanwhile, the Margrave and his aide Zervis discussed how Takumi's inventions, like hand pumps and water purifiers, had already drastically improved public health in Volton. They realized Takumi has no idea how valuable his skills and rare materials like adamantite really are, likely because he grew up in a remote area and views them as common. As the journey continued, the group entered the territory of Earl Rockford. Monsters like goblins and mad dogs stayed far away, terrified by Tsubaki's presence. Sophia and Maria noted that Earl Rockford is a respectable noble and a close friend of Margrave Volton. Thanks to the Margrave's status, they bypassed the long lines at the city gates and headed straight to the Rockford estate, a massive luxury mansion. Sophia, drawing from her background as elven nobility, explained that such estates are designed to protect the local population during monster outbreaks. The group was warmly welcomed by Earl Rockford, his wife Madame Rose, and their children. During a lavish dinner, the Earl expressed interest in having Takumi move to his domain, though the Margrave jokingly told him to stop headhunting. Madame Rose was particularly enthusiastic, thanking Takumi for his water purifiers which cleared the bad smells from the town. She also noticed that Sophia and Maria's clothes were exceptionally high quality and that their figures looked unusually well supported. When Sophia revealed they were wearing special underwear Takumi designed, Madame Rose's interest peaked. After taking the girls to another room to inspect the garments, she burst back into the dining room in a frenzy. She demanded that Takumi bring these brassieres to the world, even offering to invest in the idea herself. Takumi realized that while he couldn't easily mass-produce his high-end versions, a simplified version for the general public might be possible. Takumi agreed to design a simplified version of the underwear for the public, but the high-end silk versions would remain exclusive. Madame Rose and her maids were so desperate for the new garments that they cornered Takumi, forcing him to promise he would measure them and deliver the items as soon as possible. Later, Sophia explained that in noble society, having many children is vital, and the local underwear is so uncomfortable and basic that Madame Rose likely saw Takumi's designs as a way to improve her merit. The next morning, the group left for the royal capital, Valkyrados. During the trip, Papik suggested opening a factory to mass-produce the underwear, offering Takumi royalties. When they finally reached the capital, Takumi was amazed by its beauty. The city featured a white castle sitting in the middle of a lake, surrounded by circular districts and massive wheat field. Unlike Volton, the area was so safe from monsters that the fields didn't even need heavy walls. However, Takumi noticed large slums outside the main gates, a sign of the city's massive population. After checking into a luxury suite at the Lakeside Hotel, Sophia and Maria suggested hiring more help. They wanted a female slave who could assist Takumi with his craft work and join their adventure party for future dungeon dives. Takumi agreed and consulted Papik, who led them to the Palm Slavery Company. There, Takumi met the owner, Burton, who already knew of Takumi's reputation as a genius inventor. While waiting for the slave search, Takumi spent 2 days in a workshop. He refined massive amounts of mithril and adamantite to build 2 more luxury carriages, one for Margrave Volton and a white one for the royal family. Back at the slavery company, Burton introduced 3 candidates. The first was Carla, a young mage who didn't want to move far from her family. The second was Fran, an experienced mage who felt she was too old to learn alchemy. The third was Leva, a 24-year-old foxskin beastman. Leva was a beauty with blonde hair and a gentle vibe, but she had been sold into slavery by her parents to save her village from starving. She was also missing her right hand, which she lost while protecting her brother from a monster. Takumi interviewed Leva privately. He explained that he needed an assistant for his workshop in Volton and that adventuring would be optional for her. Leva accepted, but asked if she could send all her wages back to her poor family. Takumi pointed out that if she did that, she would never be able to pay off her debt to buy her own freedom, but she seemed more concerned about her family's survival than her own status. Leva explained that in her home country, beast women from poor villages often have no choice but to work in brothels to survive. She had only agreed to become a slave on the condition that she wouldn't have to sell her body. By becoming Takumi's slave, The money from her sale saved her family from starving, and she hoped her future wages would pay for her brother's education to break their cycle of poverty. Sophia supported the idea, noting that as Leva gained skills, she could eventually earn her freedom. Takumi agreed, paid the fees, and officially signed the contract. The group went shopping for Leva's necessities in the capital. While the women shopped, Takumi and Papik bonded over how long women take to pick out clothes. Later, back at the inn, Takumi introduced Leva to Keed. The sight of an arachne initially terrified Leva, but the others reassured her that Keed was like a little sister. Takumi then used extra heal to regrow Leva's missing right hand. Overwhelmed with emotion, Leva thanked him and expressed her desire to become an adventurer as well, wanting to raise her stats to become a better assistant in Takumi's workshop. The next day, Takumi headed to the royal castle with Papik to meet King Lobo's Valkyra. The king, joined by the prime minister and the head of the knights, thanked Takumi for his water purifiers, which had greatly improved the city's hygiene. Because of political tensions with a rival empire, the king explained they had to keep Takumi's rewards private to protect him, offering a reward from the treasury instead. The group moved to the training ground so the king could see the custom carriages. Takumi surprised everyone by summoning Tsubaki, the Drake horse, from his subspace. The king and his officials were stunned by the legendary creature. After a test ride, they were blown away by the carriage's speed, stability, and the massive luxury interior created by space magic. The king praised the work as the best on the continent, and Papik immediately ordered 2 more for himself. With his business in the capital finished, Takumi prepared to return to Volta. Meanwhile, in the Divine Empire of Sydney, the other summoned heroes, Akira and Yamato, were busy training with holy knights. They had been in this world for 3 months, unaware that Takumi was years ahead of them. The third hero, Akin, was studying magic in the library. She secretly hated the Empire's human supremacy ideology and their refusal to use modern magic devices for hygiene, which they considered filthy. Akin hoped to eventually escape to a cleaner, more progressive country like Valkyra. Unbeknownst to the heroes, the Empire's leaders and Princess Elizabeth were planning to use them as weapons in an upcoming war. Winter arrived in Volton, covering the town in snow. Despite the freezing weather, Takumi's group stayed warm thanks to the specialized underwear and clothing he designed using spider silk, which automatically regulates temperature. Takumi also officially bought the house he was renting and built a large stable in the back for Tsubaki. Life at home settled into a productive routine. Leva, the new Foxkin assistant, started learning alchemy and ancient magic characters in the workshop. She works hard, sending all her wages back to her family through the guild. Sophia and Maria also began studying magic circles to eventually create their own magic devices. Meanwhile, Maria and Keed stayed busy making high-end underwear to keep up with the massive demand from noblewomen like Madame Rockford. Papik even started planning to mass-produce a silk version for the capital's market. Takumi spent his time leveling up his space-time magic by creating high-tier magic bags for the group. These bags look like regular pouches, but can hold massive amounts of items and even stop time to keep things fresh. He explained that these are legendary items usually only found in ancient ruins, worth over 100 platinum coins each. To keep things safe, he added a magic fingerprint lock so only the registered owner can open them. On a foraging trip in the snowy grasslands, the group collected rare snow-crown medicinal plants. Tsubaki used the outing to hunt winter bush wool, keeping her skills sharp as she aimed for her next evolution. Back in town, the winter season usually meant less work for adventurers, but Takumi found himself in a different kind of trouble. While chatting with hands at the guild master Barak cornered him. Barak, a former S-rank powerhouse, decided that Takumi's combat experience was lacking despite his high stats. He dragged Takumi to the training hall for a brutal crash course in hand-to-hand combat. The training was intense. Takumi was repeatedly knocked down, but the experience forced his skills like insight, evasion, and taijutsu to level up rapidly. Barak's goal is to push Takumi until he awakens the Fist King technique, a legendary advanced skill. Eventually, the rest of the party joined in, turning the winter into a season of non-stop training for everyone. During breaks from training, Takumi crafted new gear for the girls. He made Leva a powerful magic staff using elder treant wood and mithril, along with a dagger enchanted with paralysis. For Keed, he designed adamantite claws that fit her agile 3-dimensional fighting style, allowing her to use her natural spider venom during close-range combat. By the time spring approaches, the entire party has become significantly stronger and more coordinated. During the winter training, Leva showed the most improvement, utilizing her beastman reflexes to keep up with the intense drill. During a mock battle, Sophia disarmed Leva with her spear but praised her growth. Despite their progress, Takumi reminded everyone that their primary goal was collecting materials as crafters, not being frontline warriors. However, the guildmaster Barak pointed out that their party was already top tier in Volton because every member could use intermediate magic, a rarity for any team. Barak urged Takumi to take on an escort mission to help the girls rank up. Takumi agreed to guard a Papik company convoy headed to the town of Quilbas. Although there were reports of thieves in the area, the journey proved peaceful. No thief was foolish enough to attack a carriage pulled by a legendary dragon horse like Tsubaki, especially with Keed, an Arachne, sitting openly on her back. In Quilbas, Takumi was thrilled to find that the town specialized in dairy products. He saw milk buffaloes being guarded by tamed hunter wolves and realized that the local diet included milk and cheese, which were rare in Volton. The group enjoyed a dinner of cream stew at the inn, and Maria and Leva were so impressed by the flavor that Takumi decided to stock up on ingredients. The next day, the group went on a massive shopping spree. Takumi bought large quantities of milk buffalo meat, sausages, spices, and eggs. Leva, who had been sending her wages home to save her village from poverty, was moved when Takumi offered to send water purifiers and hand pumps to her family as well. During their walk, Sophia mentioned that rice existed in other kingdoms and might be available in the royal capital. Takumi was frustrated that he had missed it during his last visit and vowed to level up his spacetime magic so he could use long warp to travel back to the capital whenever he wanted. For now, he focused on buying every type of cheese and several large barrels of wine and ale for the house. On the return trip to Volton, the merchant Tom joked that Takumi's shopping was so excessive people thought he was opening a restaurant. As they camped for the night, Keed sensed a group of thieves nearby and asked for permission to hunt them. Takumi let her go, trusting in her stealth and power. Tom reassured a worried Takumi that an Arachne was far too powerful for any group of thieves to handle. As they talked, Takumi realized he had accumulated a massive fortune from his carriage and magic bag sales, but his companions rarely spent their salaries, preferring to stay by his side. With the carriage full of new luxury foods and the mission nearly complete, the party headed back to Volton to enjoy the rest of the winter. Tom explained that keeping Sophia as a slave is actually the safest option for her. In this world, a beautiful elf would likely be kidnapped by a corrupt noble or merchant if she weren't officially owned by someone else, as stealing a slave is a serious crime. The same applies to Maria and Leva. Their beauty makes them targets, which is why they use their concealment overcoats in public. Keed returned from her hunt covered in blood. Takumi used purification magic to clean her up, and she reported that she had eliminated all 15 thieves who were lurking near the camp. Tom confirmed these were likely bandits from the Triaria Kingdom. The next morning, Takumi, Keed, and Tom headed to the thieves' cave to finish the job. They found the bodies, collected their guild cards, and stripped them of their gear. Since there wasn't much loot, Takumi used earth magic to bury the remains. Back in Volton, the party submitted their proof and their ranks were officially promoted. Despite spring arriving, the brutal training sessions with the guild master Barak continued. Takumi questioned why they were still at it, and Barak jokingly admitted he was bored, but also insisted that Takumi's current C rank was a fraud, considering he owned a legendary drake horse and an Arachne. He wanted the party to reach B rank as soon as possible. Other adventurers at the training hall began to notice Takumi's silver hair and the incredible skills of his slaves, making the group the talk of the guild. Barak also told Takumi to pick a formal name for the party. After discussing it with the girls, they settled on Wings of Norn, hoping to honor the goddess who brought Takumi to this world. Late one night, a group of assassins dressed in black jumped over the mansion wall. They moved silently through the shadows, but one by one they began to vanish without a sound. In the morning, Keed showed Takumi a pile of large silk cocoons in the garden. She had caught the intruders using a paralytic toxin that put them in a state of temporary death. Takumi cut one open and confirmed they were professional killers. He immediately sent Sophia and Maria to fetch Barak. Barak arrived and identified the men as a serious problem. He called in Margrave Volton, who arrived with Knight Leader Dorn and a squad of soldiers. They brought in a dark mage to place the intruders under slavery contracts so they could be interrogated safely. The investigation revealed that the men were members of the Kamui unit, a group of zealots from the Divine Empire of Sydney. These fanatics target anyone who threatens the monopoly of the Light God Church. Takumi's invention of the magic water purifiers had stripped the church of a massive source of income, as people no longer needed to pay priests for purification ritual. Margrave Volton warned Takumi that he is now at the top of the Empire's hit list. However, he advised against hiding, noting that Volton and the surrounding kingdoms follow the Genesis faith, which supports Takumi. To ensure their safety, Barak and Knight Leader Dorn decided to personally oversee the party's training. The Knight Order would teach them advanced sword and spear techniques, while the Magic Division would train Maria and Leva. Takumi held a meeting at home to discuss the danger. He offered to free the girls so they could escape, but Sophia, Maria, and Leva all refused, declaring their absolute loyalty and love for him. They agreed to focus on getting stronger to repel any future attacks. Takumi decided to upgrade the mansion's defenses with high-level barrier magic and began looking for a new party member to act as a tank or frontline attacker. While Burok suggested adding a man, the girls firmly rejected the idea of living with any man other than Takumi. With the decision made to find a female recruit, Maria and Keed headed to the workshop to sew new battle gear for Leva, while Takumi considered visiting the slave market again to find a suitable protector. Takumi focused on the safety of his household by working with Leva and Sophia to create magic barrier devices. During the process, his magic control skills improved significantly, unlocking a new ability called Magic Formula Control. This new skill made it easier for him to construct complex magic, leading him to revisit a project he had previously set aside, understanding and creating golem cores. While analyzing a complex golem core, Takumi realized that even though he couldn't fully replicate the ancient, layered magic circles yet, his new skills might eventually allow him to hijack or reprogram existing golem. To further protect the mansion, he not only installed the barrier devices, but also enchanted the outer walls to resist magic attacks and prevent fires. Meanwhile, in the Divine Empire of Sydney, the religious leaders were furious. Pope Warval and his advisors were losing massive amounts of money because Takumi's purification devices and high-quality potions were making the church's expensive rituals and services obsolete. They confirmed that their previous assassination team, the Kamui unit, had failed and been captured. The Empire decided to focus on a secret long-term plan involving an ancient summoning circle while sending spies to keep an eye on Takumi's location. 2 years later, they successfully summoned 3 heroes from another world, though the summoning circle broke immediately after. Back at the mansion, Takumi's training continued to show results. He reached a master level in alchemy and even gained a high-level martial arts skill called Fist King Technique. He and his team also managed to build 2 functional stone golems to act as guards for the house. Curious about Keed's suggestion that a golem could be tamed like an animal, the group traveled to a rocky area near the Forest of Death to find a wild one. They spotted a massive stone golem, over 3 meters tall, which looked much more agile and intelligent than a standard model. Sophia identified it as an ancient ruin guardian, a high-class golem that likely wandered away from decaying ruins. Takumi prepared himself to see if his taming abilities would work on a being made of stone and ancient magic. The massive stone golem approached the group, but Takumi felt a strange sense of peace rather than danger. He realized the golem was a guardian linked to the goddess Norn, and it was responding to his divine protection. Without a fight, a magic connection formed between them, and Takumi successfully tamed the creature, naming it Titan. To make it easier for Titan to travel with them, the golem shed its 3-meter stone body and transformed into a smaller 120 cm version of itself. Back at the workshop, Takumi tried to analyze Titan's core. He found it incredibly complex, a masterpiece of ancient magic that would take centuries to fully understand. While he couldn't copy it, he learned that Titan's core could inhabit different bodies, such as iron or wood, and the golem's strength would scale with the material used. Titan requested a new, more powerful form. Takumi, Sophia, and Leva designed a dual-body system, a 1.5-meter mini-Titan for daily use and a massive 3-meter jumbo Titan suit that the smaller one could dock into for heavy combat. They used high-grade mithril and adamantite alloys for the frame to ensure maximum magic conductivity and strength. Takumi even added rocket punches, using adamantite chains and magic jet propellers on the back for high-speed movement. After days of refining ores and enchanting the metal, Titan successfully merged with its new body. Its stats skyrocketed, making it the ultimate tank for the party. With the team now stronger than ever, Takumi proposed a trip to a dungeon. While he claimed it was to lure out the religious assassins in a controlled environment, he secretly just wanted to see a dungeon for himself. The girls agreed, and they chose the Forest of the Beast King, an A-rank dungeon near the capital. Inside the dungeon, the group easily handled the monsters on the upper floors. Titan took the lead with a massive shield, while the others rotated between physical weapons and magic to sharpen their skills. Takumi noticed that his entire party was growing at an insane speed, likely due to the goddess's blessing. They fought through waves of monsters until they finally reached the 10th floor, standing before the large, ornate doors of the boss room. Before entering the boss room of the Forest of the Beast King, Maria shared her research. The room would likely hold either an orc general with a squad of orcs or a pack of superior wolves. When the doors opened, they faced a massive orc general, 3 orc knights, and 7 standard orcs. The battle was quick and coordinated. Titan charged the general while Takumi and Sophia rushed the knights. Takumi used his magic to instantly shut down a knight's brain, while Sophia cut another one clean in half. Maria and Leva provided long-range magic support, and Keed shredded any orcs that got too close. Titan finished the general by crushing its head with a mace. Inside a treasure chest that appeared after the fight, they found gold and magic items, though Takumi noted his own crafted gear was still better quality. Meanwhile, in the Divine Empire of Sydney, the three summoned heroes, Akira, Yamato, and Akin, had been training for 6 months. The two boys, Akira and Yamato, had become lazy and arrogant, easily manipulated by the church with women and luxury. They fully bought into the church's holy war propaganda. Akin, however, remained disgusted by their behavior and suspicious of the empire, looking for a way to escape. In the divine realm, the goddess Norn and an angel discussed the situation. A fake god worshipped by the empire had turned into an evil spirit. While Norn couldn't intervene directly without damaging the world, she felt confident that Takumi, her favorite, would eventually handle the threat. Back in the dungeon, Takumi's group reached the 19th floor, which was crawling with high-level monsters like saber-toothed drakes and huge mantises. They fought their way through to the 20th floor, where they reached the final boss room. After a quick meal, they entered and faced a 20-meter earth dragon. The dragon opened with a powerful roar and a breath attack, but Titan's adamantite shield created a barrier that completely blocked the flames. The team then overwhelmed the dragon. Takumi and Sophia attacked with magic spears, Titan used his mace, and Keed used her threads to trap the beast. Even Tsubaki joined the fight. The dragon was defeated quickly, leaving behind rare scales, fangs, a massive magic stone, and a silver chest full of treasure. With the boss dead, a portal appeared and they returned to the city of Volton. After selling their loot and increasing Takumi's already massive fortune, the group was summoned by Margrave Volton. The Lord had a big request. He wanted Takumi to lead the development of a new settlement 100 km south of the city. This land was a dangerous, no-man's land between 3 kingdoms, filled with monsters. Previous attempts to settle there failed because building defenses took too long, but the Margrave knew Takumi could build sturdy walls and barriers almost instantly. The goal was to create a fortified village that would serve as a defensive outpost against the Triaria kingdom. The settlers would be people who had previously lost their homes due to bad leadership and high taxes. Since the location was a day's ride away, Takumi could still commute home using Tsubaki. Realizing the importance of the project, Takumi accepted the task of building the new frontier fort. Tsubaki reached her maximum level and evolved into a dragon horse. Her scales became glossier, her stats increased significantly, and she gained a powerful fire breath. Back at the mansion, Takumi discussed the scale of the new settlement with Margrave Volton. While it was called a pioneering village, the Margrave revealed his true plan. He wanted a fortified town, capable of housing 2,000 soldiers to act as a military wedge against the Triaria kingdom. Takumi agreed, and even offered to build a 100 km highway connecting the new site to Volton, realizing that a proper road would boost both the economy and military movement. The construction began immediately. Sophia and Maria used spirit and earth magic to level the terrain, while Titan, who revealed he could also manipulate stone, helped strengthen the foundation. Within just 3 days, they completed a 100 km stone highway wide enough for large carriages. When they reached the site, a lush hill near a river, Takumi got to work. He used massive amounts of mana and potions to raise 15-meter-high stone walls around the entire area, reinforced with hardened magic. He also dug a deep moat and built an aqueduct system for fresh water. Over the next 10 days, he enclosed a massive area, turning the village into a full-scale fortress. He and Maria then installed a modern sewage system, septic tanks, and magic-powered toilets in every building. To finish the first phase, Takumi built sturdy stone houses for the settlers, barracks for 1,000 soldiers, and a refined castle on the central hill. He even prepared the surrounding fields with fertilizer made from monster parts. When Knight Leader Dorn arrived with the first wave of pioneers, everyone was stunned. They expected a dangerous wilderness where they would have to sleep in tents. Instead, they found a fully functional high-tech fortress town that was arguably more secure than Volton itself. The pioneers, many of whom were former debt slaves or victims of corrupt nobles, were moved to tears. Having a solid stone home and ready-to-plant fields was a miracle they hadn't expected. Dorn was equally shocked, realizing that Takumi had done 10 years' worth of development in less than a month. Dorn rushed back to Volton to report to the Margrave. He explained that the new town's walls were enchanted with magic resistance and were so strong that an invading army would need at least 20,000 men just to stand a chance. Margrave Volton realized this village was now a strategic masterpiece. He immediately decided to visit the site personally and sent word to the king, knowing this fortress shifted the entire power balance of the region. As things settled down in the new town, Sophia approached Takumi with a personal request. Among the pioneers was a young beastwoman widow in her early 20s. While the older widows had remarried, this woman was struggling on her own. Sophia suggested hiring her as a maid for their household to give her a safe place to live and work. Takumi, having more than enough money to support new staff, agreed to meet her. A woman in her mid-20s named Marnie entered the room for her interview. As a member of the Rabbitkin tribe, she had long tawny ears and wore the traditional high-exposure clothing of her people, which Takumi found quite distracting despite being used to the beauties in his party. Marnie looked exhausted from the hardships of her past. She had lost her husband to illness 6 months prior and had been struggling to survive as a pioneer ever since. Takumi officially hired her as a maid, and Maria welcomed the extra help with the housework. Sophia suggested that Marnie should also travel with them to handle their daily needs during adventures, as staying alone in the massive mansion might be too much for her mentally. As the new settlement, now named Wedgefort, began to stabilize, an inspection team arrived from the capital. This group included not only Margrave Volton, but also the Prime Minister, Viscount Portfort. Takumi gave them a tour of the town, showing off the advanced sewage systems and magic-powered toilets he had installed. The officials were stunned by the quality of the fortress and the speed of its development. They informed Takumi that the town was growing so fast that it would soon house over 10,000 people, including 5,000 soldiers. They commissioned Takumi to stay longer to oversee the construction of new branches for the Adventurers and Commerce Guild. During the visit, the officials noticed Marnie, who was now dressed in a proper long-skirt maid outfit. They praised Takumi for taking in a widow, noting that his household was already becoming a legendary hub of talent and power. 2 years passed quickly, and Takumi turned 17. Wedgefort became a bustling trade hub and a massive military advantage for the kingdom, though its existence remained a secret to their enemies for a long time. During this period, Takumi focused on upgrading his gear. Using rare materials like orichalcum found in the dungeon, he forged 2 legendary swords. The sacred sword Amaterasu for Sophia, which dealt massive light damage to undead, and the absolute sword Tsukuyomi for himself, which possessed dark and lightning attributes capable of damaging an enemy's spirit and paralyzing them. The rest of the party grew significantly during these 2 years as well. Sophia became a balanced master of the sword and spirit magic. Maria reached C rank and became an expert seamstress alongside Keed. Leva mastered chantless alchemy and began learning magic blacksmithing. Tsubaki, now a dragon horse, became the undisputed fastest and strongest mount in the region, while Titan took charge of a squad of gatekeeper golems to protect the mansion. Marnie also transformed. No longer haggard, she became a cheerful part of the family, learning self-defense from Maria and openly showing her affection for Takumi. As the 3rd year in this world began, Takumi's stats and skills reached elite levels, and his group stood ready for the inevitable conflicts brewing on the horizon. The pioneers, including Marnie, were initially terrified of their debt slave status, but their fear turned to hope when they learned they were being sent to a new fortified village 100 km south of Volt. The promise of 3 years without taxes gave them a reason to live, though Marnie, having lost her husband and family, still felt hollow inside. Their journey was surprisingly fast thanks to the paved stone highway Takumi had built, and their arrival at Wedgefort left everyone speechless. They found massive walls, a deep moat, and a fully functional town with sturdy stone houses, running water, and advanced toilets. Marnie, feeling overwhelmed and alone as a widow, was approached by Sophia. Sensing the woman's struggle, Sophia suggested she work as a maid for Takumi instead of farming. During her interview, Marnie was struck by Takumi's youth and appearance. Despite her grief, she felt an immediate attraction to him. She joined the household and quickly adapted, even overcoming her initial terror of Keed the Arachne and Titan the Golem. Maria and Keed even made her custom high-quality enchanted clothing, and she became a beloved member of the family. Over the next 2 years, Marnie integrated fully into the group. She eventually confessed her feelings to Takumi and began a relationship with him, encouraged by Sophia and Maria. Recognizing that a maid in an adventurer's party needs to be capable, Maria began teaching her assassination and self-defense techniques. Takumi and Leva even forged a custom set of light armor for her using Earth Dragon Scale, ensuring she was well protected during their travel. The peaceful routine was broken when hands from the Adventurers Guild arrived with an emergency summon. A massive monster stampede, drawn by the sudden human activity at Wedgefort, was heading straight for the new town. As an A-rank party, the Wings of Norn were ordered to lead the defense. 2 other veteran parties, Lion's Fang and the all-female Crimson Rose, were assigned to join them. At the south gate, Takumi revealed his custom carriage and hitched it to Tsubaki. The members of Crimson Rose were stunned by the carriage's impossible speed and its luxurious, magically expanded interior. As they raced toward the battlefield, Takumi kept the plan simple. They would blast the monsters with magic from the moving carriage before Tsubaki charged into the center of the swarm. Once they arrived, Takumi, his girls, and the other veteran adventurers would jump out to clean up the mess while Keed and Tsubaki handled the rest. Merylda, the leader of Crimson Rose, could only laugh at how reckless yet effective the plan sounded. The veteran parties, Lion's Fang and Crimson Rose, agreed that since they hadn't trained together, it was better to fight as separate units rather than forcing awkward coordination. While they waited for the battlefield to come into view, Maria and Marnie served tea in high-quality cups the group had crafted themselves. This surprised the Crimson Rose members, who hadn't realized Takumi's party were primarily expert artisans. After 2 hours of travel, the massive walls of Wedgefort appeared, surrounded by a sea of monsters. While the town's defenders rained down arrows, the sheer number of enemies was overwhelming. Takumi coordinated a preemptive strike with Sally, the mage from Crimson Rose. Takumi, Sophia, Maria, and Leva combined their magic to unleash a devastating elemental storm. Thunder, tornadoes, and fire vortexes merged, wiping out a massive chunk of the monster swarm in seconds. Tsubaki charged into the mess, using her horn and hooves to crush everything in her path, while Keed's threads shredded enemies from above. As the carriage reached the thick of the fight, the other adventure parties jumped out to take their positions. Takumi summoned Titan from his subspace, and the massive metal golem began rampaging with his shield and mace, crushing heads and sending monsters flying. The battle became a showcase of the party's elite gear and skill. Sophia switched to her sacred sword and shield, moving through the horde like a dancer, while Maria used her fire spear to incinerate groups of orcs. Leva provided rapid-fire magic support from the carriage, and Takumi moved like a ghost, using his stealth and high-speed movement to take down high-threat targets. He rotated between his ice spear and his absolute sword, even using his decomposition skill to instantly break the heads of giant vipers. Merylda, the leader of Crimson Rose, was stunned. Even though her party was B rank and Takumi's was C rank, the gap in power was obvious. She watched in disbelief as Tsubaki and Keed operated like a two-man army, and Titan handled giant trolls with ease. Realizing she couldn't even comprehend their level of power, Merylda stopped thinking about it and focused on her own fight. As the battle continued for 2 hours, the monster count dropped significantly. Takumi's combat skills reached a breaking point, awakening the Sword King and Spear King techniques. He began moving even faster, lopping off heads and storing the largest monster corpses in his item box to keep the area clear. When the main adventure force from Volton and the Margrave's Knights finally arrived, the tide turned into a total rout. The remaining monsters tried to flee, and the soldiers from Wedgefort opened the gates to join the final cleanup. With the victory secured, Keed approached Takumi, feeling a surge of energy. She had defeated so many enemies that she was ready to evolve again. Takumi sent her into his subspace so she could transform in peace. Marnie brought everyone water, and Takumi used high-level purification and healing magic to clean their gear and fix any minor scrapes. The group met back up with the other parties. Merylda and the healer Paula asked if they were holy warriors of the church because of their name, Wings of Norn. Takumi clarified that while he personally follows the goddess, they have no official ties to the religious institution. With the sun setting and the air thick with the smell of blood, the group decided to let the knights handle the remaining cleanup. They boarded the carriage and headed through the drawbridge into Wedgefort to finally rest. After the battle, Takumi and his group rest at an inn in Wedgefort. Marnie is amazed by how much her stats have grown, and Maria jokes that a maid must master assassination techniques. Takumi decides they should relax in town for a while since they aren't in a rush to finish their pending orders for magic items and potion. Meanwhile, at a nearby bar, Merylda from the Crimson Rose party talks to Heath from Lion's Fang. She is still stunned by Takumi's performance, especially how he seemed to disappear and reappear during the fight. Heath explains that Takumi has only been an adventurer for 2 years, which shocks Merylda even more, as reaching that level usually takes over a decade. They suspect Takumi has a powerful divine protection from Goddess Norn, and decide to keep his skills a secret to protect him from the greedy zealots of the light god faith. Back in the capital of Triaria, King Mercules is furious to hear that Wedgefort survived the monster swarm without a scratch. His advisors tell him that attacking the fortress is impossible because the terrain is too dangerous, and they can't risk a war with neighboring kingdom. In the Divine Empire of Sydnea, Pope Warval is also stunned. He wrongly assumes Takumi's party are high-ranking members of the Genesis faith and decides not to mess with them, unintentionally giving Takumi the peace he wanted. Some time passes and the group returns to Volton. Keed has evolved into an arachnid. Her lower body is now a larger spider, while her upper body looks like a teenage girl. She has also gained dark magic. Despite her new look, she still has a playful personality and loves the new food Takumi makes. Life becomes peaceful. Takumi uses his knowledge to make butter, cheese, and even a wood-fired pizza oven in the backyard. He helps Leva create a magic box with state preservation so she can send fresh cookies and food to her brother. Takumi also experiments with fermentation and aging magic to brew high-quality ale and wine, which the group enjoys during their fancy dinners. The mansion is now equipped with a large bath that Takumi fills using his fire and water magic. Since baths are a rare luxury reserved for top noble, he enjoys soaking with Sophia, Maria, and Marnie every night. He even spends his nights with them on a rotating schedule, thankful for the high stamina body the goddess gave him. As winter arrives in his third year in this world, Takumi invents a hot water magic device to sell to the public. While it's a hit, the need for large magic stones keeps it mostly for the wealthy. With their production work caught up, Takumi and his party head back to the Adventurers Guild to start taking on active requests again. Takumi's group is now the top party in Volton. Their guild master, Barak, even offers Takumi a promotion to A rank. However, Takumi turns it down for now, wanting to stay B rank for another year to avoid drawing too much attention to himself. Soon after, Papik, the merchant guild president, visits with a massive request. The neighboring Lemuria kingdom wants to build a fortress near the wild lands, but they need a proper highway connecting it to Wedgefort. Since Takumi's previous road building work was legendary, they want him to lay down 250 kilometers of high-quality stone road. Takumi accepts, realizing his party's reputation is spreading far beyond the local borders. The team heads out to the site. While Tsubaki, Keed, and Titan guard the perimeter, Takumi, Sophia, and Maria use their magic and spirits to flatten the land and pave it into a perfect stone highway at walking speed. During the 10-day project, they run into packs of orcs, which Marnie and Leva handle to gain experience. Just as they are finishing the road near the new fortress, everyone in the party feels a massive, unsettling wave of magic power. Takumi immediately realizes what it is. Exactly 3 years since he arrived in this world, the Divine Empire of Sydnea has activated the forbidden ritual to summon heroes from Earth. He knows this magic strains the world itself, and is exactly what Goddess Norn wanted to prevent. Back at the mansion, Takumi gathers everyone for a serious talk. He asks them to keep a secret and then reveals his full story, that he was a human from another world, died during a botched summoning, and was sent here by Goddess Norn with a special body and skill. While the girls are shocked, they quickly accept it, viewing him as a divine messenger. They discuss the danger of the newly summoned heroes. Since there is no demon king to fight, the Empire likely plans to use these heroes for war or religious propaganda to take over other kingdoms. Takumi decides they need to get much stronger to protect their peaceful life. Their new goal is for everyone to raise their guild rank by 1 level and increase their political and economic influence. To level up fast, the group heads into the Forest of Death, a high-level monster zone. With their stealth skills and powerful weapons, they move through the woods like ghosts. Takumi, Sophia, and Maria all break past level 100, while Leva and Marnie make huge gains. Takumi realizes that his divine protection from the goddess is likely boosting his teammates' growth too, making them all level up at an insane pace. After a successful day of hunting, they head back to Volton, ready to face whatever trouble the Empire's new heroes might bring. The group begins their hunt in the Forest of Death, moving with high-level stealth to catch monsters off guard. Takumi easily takes down a 2-meter-tall crazy ape, though Keed reminds him not to cut them in half so they can still sell the fur. They focus on leveling up Marnie, the weakest member, to increase her vitality and survival chances. Takumi starts to suspect his divine protection is boosting his entire party's growth, as everyone is progressing at an insane speed. By the time they finish for the day, Takumi, Sophia, and Maria have all surpassed level 100, while Leva is at 80 and Marnie is over 60. After returning to Volton for a quick rest and a bath, the group travels to the royal capital of the Valkyria Kingdom to complete a request. At the Adventurers Guild, they officially rank up. Takumi and Sophia reach A rank, Maria hits B rank, Leva C rank, and Marnie D rank. While checking the request board, they encounter the heroes summoned by the Sydnea Empire. The heroes are 3 Japanese teenagers, 2 arrogant boys named Akira and Yamato, and a girl named Akin. The boys act like thugs, loudly demanding to buy Sophia and the other girls as slaves. When Takumi refuses and tries to leave, Akira loses his temper and attacks with a sword. Takumi easily breaks the weapon using his decomposition skill and pins Yamato to the ground. The surrounding adventurers, disgusted by the heroes' behavior and their disrespect for the guild's rules, turn on the boys, forcing them to retreat in shame. Akin stays behind to apologize for her companion's behavior. Takumi reveals his name to her, which shocks her, and he invites her to meet him later at his hotel. Once they meet privately, Takumi reveals the truth. He was a Japanese salaryman who died during their summoning ritual and was reincarnated by Goddess Norn. Akin is relieved to find someone she can trust. She explains that while she realized they were being used as tools for war, the 2 boys have become drunk on power and have lost all moral restraint, even killing people without hesitation. Akin begs Takumi to help her and her young catkin attendant, Lulu, escape the Empire's control. Takumi uses his magic to break the lethal slave collar around Lulu's neck and agrees to protect them. He uses his teleportation magic to send Akin and Lulu to his mansion in Volton, placing them under the protection of Titan and Keed. Before leaving the capital, Takumi uses his stealth skills to sneak into the local light god church. He leaves a parting gift to mess with the hero party and the church officials, then heads back to his group. Soon after, the church falls into total chaos as they realize one of their precious heroes has vanished into thin air. The secret surveillance team tracking Akin and Lulu went missing, causing a massive panic within the church. Unbeknownst to them, Keed had quietly eliminated all 10 agents. Inside the cathedral, the arrogant heroes Akira and Yamato learned of Akin's disappearance. Rather than being worried, they were annoyed, as they both viewed her merely as an object they wanted to possess. The church officials decided to send the boys back to the Empire to regroup. The two heroes, blinded by their own egos, didn't realize their personalities had been warped by drugs the church mixed into their food. Akin had only stayed sane because she used her purification magic on everything she ate. The church leaders, who viewed non-humans as subhuman tools, grew frustrated with the lack of progress in their holy war. They realized that Wedgefort's survival and Takumi's party, the Wings of Norn, were major obstacles to their influence. Fearing the growing strength of the neighboring kingdoms, the church began rushing their plans for war against the Genesis faith. On the way back to Volton, Takumi's group discussed how to protect Akin and Lulu. They decided the mansion was safer than a castle because of its high-tech defenses. Between Titan's upgraded security golems, Keed's lethal boundary threads, and the sharp animal senses of Marnie and Leva, the house was a fortress. Takumi also realized that the other heroes were actually quite weak compared to his party because they lacked the divine growth boost he provided to his companions. Once they arrived home, Takumi made a big decision. Now that he and Sophia were rank adventurers, they had enough social standing to protect themselves from greedy noble. He officially used his magic to dispel the slave contracts for Sophia, Maria, and Leva. Though they were briefly scared he was kicking them out, he clarified that he wanted them to stay by his side as equals and partners rather than property. Sophia and Maria were moved to tears when he referred to them as his wives, while Leva happily agreed to stay on as his lead assistant. The next morning, Takumi checked in on Akin and Lulu. While Akin was enjoying the modern comforts of the mansion, young Lulu was still struggling to understand her freedom after being a slave since birth. Takumi reassured her that she wasn't going anywhere and would have the time to figure out her own future. To ensure their long-term safety, Takumi began preparing existence concealment, gear, and stealth training for them, knowing that the next step would be a formal meeting with the king to handle Akin's official defection from the Empire. Takumi explains to Akin and Lulu that they are safe for now, as both the king and Margrave Volton are trustworthy people. He decides to officially report Akin's situation to the Margrave to handle the international fallout of her defection. Akin and Lulu, feeling relieved, put their trust in him. 5 days later, Takumi meets with Margrave Volton. He explains how the other heroes from the Sydnia Empire attacked him at the guild, and reveals that he is now sheltering Akin and her attendant. The Margrave is disgusted by the Empire's kidnapping of people from another world to use as war pawns. Takumi notes that while the other heroes have high growth potential, they are currently weak and have been brainwashed by the Empire's human supremacy doctrine. The Margrave agrees that the mansion in Volton is the safest place for Akin, as its defenses are superior to the local castle. To let things cool down, Takumi decides to take the group to Bode Village, the place where he first started his life in this world. They travel in his custom magic carriage pulled by Tsubaki, the dragon horse. During the trip, Akin is shocked to see Takumi cooking high-quality meals. He explains that as an artisan, he views cooking as just another form of creation. Akin is moved to tears by the delicious food, having suffered through terrible rations and poor sanitation in the Empire. She complains about the lack of baths and the smell in the holy city, making Takumi realize how much he has improved local life with his purification magic devices. When they arrive at Bode Village, Takumi is amazed to see it has doubled in size over the last 3 years. The villagers recognize him immediately and welcome him back as a hero and benefactor. Vanga and Martha, the hunters who first took care of him, are thrilled to see him and immediately start planning a massive banquet. The group heads to the small cabin where Takumi used to live. The villagers had kept it perfectly maintained in case he ever returned. While Sophia and Keed head out to hunt game for the party, Maria, Marnie, and Lulu clean the cabin. Takumi sets up furniture from his magic storage and brews tea for everyone. He decides that while they will use the cabin as a base, they will sleep in the spacious magic carriage for comfort. As the village prepares for the celebration, Takumi prepares to contribute high-quality monster meat from his storage to ensure the banquet is a success. After tea, Takumi and the group head to the village plaza to help with banquet preparation. The village women immediately start teasing Takumi about his beautiful companions, making him blush. When Sophia and Keed return from hunting, the villagers are shocked to see Keed's new arachne form, but they quickly warm up to her because she is so cute. The women even kidnap her because they want her to produce high-quality silk threads for them. While the girls help dismantle the prey, mostly deer, rabbits, and boars, Takumi uses his earth and smithing magic to instantly create stoves and iron grills. Leva is impressed by his chantless magic, though Takumi feels a bit guilty since his skills come from the goddess's favoritism. As the sun sets, the banquet begins. The village is livelier than ever, with many new young couples and children. Takumi provides chilled ale and a special barbecue sauce that everyone loves. He chats with Bobbin, the local blacksmith, and promises to give him some mithril and adamantite ingots, which makes the old smith incredibly happy. Watching the celebration, Takumi and Sophia discuss the village's future. It has grown thanks to the hand pump workshop Takumi started, but they worry that its wealth might attract bandits. Takumi decides to build security golems to protect the place. Akin joins them, clearly drunk and emotional. She admits she wishes she had been summoned to a peaceful place like this instead of the Empire. Sophia eventually carries the sleeping Akin to the carriage. Under the beautiful starry sky, Takumi feels a deep sense of peace. He realizes how far he has come in 3 years. Sophia comforts him, sensing his past struggles and promises to always stay by his side. When Takumi asks if she wants to return to her home country, she says she'd rather stay with him, though they agree to visit someday. Maria and Marnie join them, and they spend the rest of the night enjoying the quiet moment together. The next morning, Takumi heals Akin's hangover with magic. Over a luxury breakfast of bacon and eggs, the group plans their day. Keed goes back to help the village women with silk, while Leva heads out to gather herbs with Titan as her guard. Maria and Marnie take Akin and Lulu hunting to teach them the ropes. Left with some free time, Takumi upgrades the village's protective walls and renovates his old cabin. He adds a whole new section so Akin and Lulu can have their own space. By the time he's done, the simple cabin has turned into a high-end house. When the hunting group returns with a mountain of rabbits, they all cook together. Akin is fascinated by the modern food like soy sauce and skewers. Later, Akin finds out that the girl's comfortable underwear is made from Keed's enchanted silk. Having suffered with the rough clothes of this world, she practically begs Keed and Maria to help her make some Japanese-style sets. Over the next few days, Takumi focuses on the village's defense. He and Leva build 2 massive, 2.5-meter-tall security golems made of adamantite and magic steel. Equipped with heavy shields and halberds, these golems are strong enough to crush ogres or entire bandit gang. Meanwhile, Titan builds a professional stone oven in the plaza so the villagers can bake bread and pizza. Akin is overjoyed at the prospect of eating pizza again, and the group spends the afternoon preparing the dough for a village-wide feast. Maria and Marnie pulled wheat flour from their magic bags and began kneading pizza dough. Akin and Lulu joined in, having a great time as Takumi used alchemy to speed up the fermentation process. The smell of the stone oven soon attracted the village wives, turning a quiet work day into a large outdoor lunch party. Takumi quickly crafted extra tables and chairs from spare wood to accommodate everyone. While the group enjoyed the fresh pizza, Takumi gave a live demonstration on how to use the oven so the villagers could keep using it after he left. After lunch, Takumi and Leva returned to the workshop to finish the security golem. They spent the next 4 days meticulously engraving the magic cores and assembling the bodies using adamantite and magic steel. Each golem stood over 8 feet tall, armed with massive shields and halberds. To ensure they wouldn't need constant maintenance, Takumi skipped complex features like rocket punches, instead focusing on high-capacity magic crystals that allowed the golems to recharge automatically from the atmosphere. Once finished, the golems were stationed at the village gates, providing the small settlement with a level of defense that could easily crush ogres or bandit armies. With the village secure, Takumi turned his attention to Akin's safety. He developed a magic ring made of mithril alloy that used illusion magic to change her appearance. At Akin's request, the ring turned her hair blonde and her eyes green, making her look like a different person to anyone from the Empire. Meanwhile, Keed and Marnie took Akin and Lulu out to the surrounding woods to hunt. They focused on letting Lulu get the final hits on monsters to boost her level quickly. After 10 days, it was time to leave. The villagers gathered at the gates to say an emotional goodbye, with the women playfully begging Keed to return soon with more of her silk. As Tsubaki pulled the carriage away, Akin reflected on how lucky she was to have found Takumi, contrasting the warmth of the village with the cold cruelty she experienced in the Empire. Back in the divine Empire of Sydney, the situation turned dark. The remaining heroes, Akira and Yamato, had become drunk on power and completely lost their moral compass. Under the influence of drugs mixed into their food by the church, they began committing atrocities, even attacking and massacring innocent villages in the neighboring Salamander Kingdom. Pope Warval and Princess Elizabeth, also losing their sanity, viewed these massacres as a successful cleansing of pagans. They began planning similar attacks on the Valkyra and Lemuria Kingdom, though they worried their heroes weren't yet strong enough to face S-rank adventurers. In the Valkyrados castle, King Lobos and Prime Minister Simon received reports of the Empire's brutality. Realizing that the church was now effectively a nest of monsters and terrorists, they discussed how to protect their own borders. Simon mentioned that Takumi had already installed high-level security golems in Bode village. The king, impressed by the report, ordered Simon to consult with Takumi immediately to find a way to bolster the kingdom's defenses against the upcoming threat. A few days after returning to his mansion in Volton, Takumi finished crafting high-grade armor for Akin, while Lulu began working in a custom-made uniform made of enchanted silk. The girls spent their days taking on guild requests to raise the ranks and levels of the new members. This peaceful routine was interrupted when Prime Minister Simon arrived personally at the mansion. He explained that he had traveled from the capital with a top-secret request that required Takumi's unique skills to protect the kingdom from the Empire's encroaching madness. Takumi and Leva got straight to work on the king's request. While the world saw Takumi as just an A-rank adventurer, the kingdom's leadership knew his true value was as an elite artisan, a secret they worked hard to protect. The situation became personal when news arrived that the two corrupted heroes from Sydney had slaughtered a peaceful village. Akin was devastated to hear that her former classmates had become monsters, but there was no time to mourn. To protect the border villages, Takumi agreed to mass-produce 100 security golems. Since these were meant for local defense rather than war, he designed them to be economical versions, standing over 8 feet tall with magic steel frames, equipped with heavy shields and halberds. He programmed them with a specific safety feature. They could detect criminal records via magic frequencies in guild cards, allowing them to block known criminals while ignoring peaceful citizens. For 10 days, Takumi and Leva worked non-stop in his workshop, using alchemy to process massive amounts of ore into ingots and crafting golem cores. The work was repetitive and boring, but they pushed through, even enhancing magic stones into high-capacity crystals to power the machine. To add another layer of safety, they decided to install magic barrier devices in village churches, creating safe zones for civilians to hide in while the golems fought off threats. Once the 100 golems were finished and stored in Takumi's item box, the party, now including Akin and the young girl Lulu, set out toward the southern border. They traveled in a carriage pulled by Tsubaki, their dragon horse, who ran at incredible speeds. Along the way, Maria taught Lulu how to sew, while Leva brewed potions to distribute to villages without doctors. The mission wasn't without drama. At some stops, greedy nobles tried to seize the golems by force. Takumi didn't hold back. He took down the corrupt lords without killing them and used a teleportation gate to hand them over to the royal knights for arrest. Finally, they reached South Boron, a small village on the edge of the kingdom. Just as Takumi finished explaining the new defense system to the village mayor, Keed signaled a warning through telepathy. A group of 20 armed men was surrounding the village. Takumi didn't hesitate. He ordered Akin and Lulu to stay behind the golem for safety while the rest of the team moved out. Using their stealth gear to remain invisible, the team moved like ghosts. Before the enemy leader even realized what was happening, his entire squad was taken down in silence. Takumi appeared behind the leader and knocked him out, keeping him alive for interrogation. After a quick trip through a portal to hand the prisoner over to the night leader in the capital, Takumi returned to his group, ready to continue their mission across the borderlands. As they continued their journey, the weight of the recent battle lingered. It was the first time Akin had seen people killed right in front of her, and the shock left her pale and shaken. While Lulu, who grew up in this harsh world, didn't quite understand why Akin was so upset, Takumi knew how hard it was to adapt. He comforted her, explaining that while showing mercy to bandits isn't possible here, it's still tough to get used to. Akin bravely decided to keep moving, realizing that being an adventurer meant facing these brutal realities. To help her feel more capable, Takumi gave Akin and Lulu their own high-performance stealth overcoats, just like the ones the rest of the group wore. These coats make the wearer almost invisible by hiding their presence. Akin also started training intensely in light magic, focusing on healing and barriers, while Lulu practiced combat with Marnie. As they traveled and camped, the group bonded over meal. Akin was amazed to learn that many of the delicious foods they enjoyed, like soft bread, bacon, and various sauces, were actually introduced or improved by Takumi using his knowledge from his past life. He even mentioned that he had ordered rice to be imported, which made Akin incredibly excited. Takumi encouraged her and Lulu to take their time finding what they truly enjoyed doing in this new world. Thanks to their fast dragon horse Tsubaki, a journey that should have taken months was finished in just one. They successfully installed security golems and barrier devices in villages all along the border. During the trip, Akin was shocked to realize that the high-quality armor Takumi had given her was actually better than national treasures, made from rare materials like mithril and dragon scale. Seeking more information on the attackers, Takumi teleported to the capital to speak with Prime Minister Simon. He learned that the interrogation of the captured leader ended poorly. The man died the moment they tried to force information out of him using a slave contract, suggesting he was under some kind of dark spell. More importantly, Simon revealed that the attackers were tainted with miasma, a malicious form of energy that boosted their strength and made them ignore pain. Takumi realized he could create a new magic device to detect this miasma, which would help spot attackers or monsters before they reached a village. Back with the group, he began researching how to track this energy. While most people find miasma difficult to sense, unless it's very strong, Takumi aimed to build a sensor sensitive enough to provide an early warning system for the entire kingdom. Takumi and Sophia spent their morning training in mock battle, a daily routine to keep their combat skills sharp. Even though Takumi is officially an A-rank artisan, his fighting strength is now top tier, a fact that consistently surprises Akin. After a month of traveling, the group successfully finished installing security golems and barriers along the border. The rewards were massive, but Takumi chose to donate the money to orphanages and churches, feeling it was too much for one person to keep. With the mission over, the group returned to Volton. While Maria, Marnie, and Lulu focused on cleaning the mansion, and Leva and Akin delivered potions to a local company, Takumi returned to his workshop. His next big project was a device to detect miasma, the dark energy found in the religious zealots from Sydney. Since miasma is usually too faint to sense, he and Leva struggled to make progress in the lab. To find a breakthrough, they headed to a monster nest near a lake for fieldwork. While the rest of the group treated the trip like a picnic, fishing and enjoying the scenery, Takumi and Leva hunted horned rabbits to study how miasma clings to living creatures. By bringing these monsters back to the clean environment of Volton, they were finally able to isolate the miasma's frequency. Takumi realized that light attribute magic, which naturally purifies darkness, was the key to sensing it. He and Leva spent days secluded in the workshop, perfecting a miasma sensor that could link with his barrier devices. During a break, Takumi took Sophia on a date through town. At the Adventurers Guild, he learned that the religious zealots were now attacking villages in the neighboring kingdom of Lemuria. This news pushed him to finish the sensors quickly. Within a few days, the devices were ready, tested, and mass-produced for the kingdom's defense. With the immediate crisis handled, Takumi finally asked Sophia about her past. He wondered why she had remained a slave for 50 years instead of being rescued by her noble family in the Igral kingdom. Sophia revealed a sad truth. Her family had actually allowed her to be sold into slavery to protect her. A high-ranking viscount had been obsessed with making her his mistress, and since her family's rank was too low to refuse him, becoming a lost prisoner of war was the only way to keep her out of his hands. Takumi was surprised to learn about the corruption in the Igral kingdom. Sophia explained that a powerful, 650-year-old viscount had tried to force her to be his mistress. To save her, her father Dante coordinated with a slave merchant to hide her in slavery until the old viscount eventually passed away. Sophia had also been cursed by one of the viscount's men, which caused her disabilities and made her lose her magic. She chose Takumi to be her master because she intuitively trusted him, and now that she is a free, high-ranking adventurer, she feels safe enough to return home. Takumi agreed to take the group to the Elven Kingdom so Sophia could reunite with her parents and brother Darfi. They began preparing for the journey, which would take them toward the capital city, Yggdrasil, built around a massive world tree. Takumi spent time in his workshop crafting high-end mithril bracelets with status-resistance enchantments as gifts for Sophia's family. Meanwhile, the rest of the group stocked up on food and supplies, as Sophia warned that elves often find cooking a chore and have very plain food. In the Igral kingdom, Sophia's parents, Dante and Phrygia, were still mourning her. They lived in a small territory and had been struggling for 50 years to save enough money to buy her back from slavery, unaware that she had already been freed and healed. Her younger brother, Darfi, had grown up feeling resentful of Sophia. Because he was constantly compared to his genius sister by older knights, he had grown to dislike her and felt that her falling into slavery was a disgrace to their family. Before leaving Volton, Takumi finished mass-producing miasma sensors and barrier devices for the local Margrave to ensure the town's safety. Akin and Lulu spent their final days training and completing minor guild quests to increase their adventure ranks. Once everything was ready, the group set off in their custom carriage. The journey was difficult because the path between the kingdoms was more of an animal trail than a proper road. The elves' seclusive nature meant they rarely maintained trade routes with other nations. Despite the rough terrain, the group made steady progress thanks to Tsubaki, their dragon horse, and the advanced suspension Takumi built into the carriage. Sophia noted that while elves don't hate other races, They are very arrogant and consider themselves superior, which often causes tension with neighboring human kingdom. They expected to reach the border in 2 days, with Sophia feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement about seeing her family again. As the carriage entered the massive forest marking the border of the Yggdrasil kingdom, Takumi was stunned to see the legendary world tree, Yggdrasil, towering in the distance. Sophia explained that the entire country is hidden by a massive magic barrier, which is why the tree isn't visible from further away. Unlike Takumi's barriers, this one covers the whole nation, though it can still be broken by concentrated magic attacks. As seen during the war 50 years ago, the conversation turned toward the difference in lifespans. Since elves lived for hundreds of years, Marnie worried that Sophia would eventually be left alone after the rest of the group passed away. Sophia admitted she once thought about following Takumi to the grave, but now she plans to live on as the guardian of their memories and resting places. Touched by her loyalty, Takumi vowed to level up as much as possible to extend his own life for her sake. To enter the kingdom, Sophia appealed to the forest spirits, who recognized her and allowed the carriage to pass through the barrier. Inside, the forest was dim and lush. Sophia explained that the world tree is the source of legendary materials, including the ingredients for the elixir, a cure-all for any disease or curse, and Amrita, which extends life. Even the branches of the tree are used to make the world's most powerful magic staffs, but only those recognized by the trees can use them. As they traveled, Takumi sensed people watching them. Sophia clarified that these were border patrol. Usually they are very suspicious of outsiders, but because the spirits told them Sophia was a free citizen and not a slave, they allowed the group to proceed. However, the guards remained wary because of Keed, whose power as an arachne is considered a calamity-class threat. They eventually reached the Sylphide territory, which consisted of peaceful farming villages. Takumi was fascinated to see elves using spirit magic for everyday chores like watering crops and harvesting. While the scenery was beautiful, the family mansion was smaller and more worn out than Takumi expected, showing that Sophia's family had struggled financially since she was taken. When the carriage pulled up, Sophia's parents, Dante and Phrygia, ran out in tears. They had been tipped off by the spirits that their daughter was returning. The reunion was emotional, with the family embracing after 50 years apart. Seeing this, Maria and Akin felt a bit lonely thinking of their own lost families, but the group supported them. Inside the mansion, Dante thanked Takumi for saving Sophia and healing her disabilities. Sophia made it clear that she intended to serve Takumi for the rest of her life. To Takumi's surprise, her parents readily agreed. They explained that since elves live so long, a century or two spent traveling the world is a good experience. And since Sophia's younger brother, Darfi, is already a successful knight in the capital and the family heir, Sophia is free to live however she chooses. Sophia was proud to hear that her little brother had grown into a fine knight. She then told her parents that she and Takumi had reached a rank status, meaning they now have the strength and influence to protect themselves from the corrupt nobles who once targeted her. With the family reunited and their blessings given, Sophia finally felt at peace in her childhood home. Dante and Phrygia invited the group to stay at their mansion, and a feast was organized to celebrate the reunion. Since the elven family didn't have a professional chef, Takumi's companions stepped in to help. Takumi provided high-quality monster meat and seasonings from his storage, as the elves usually only used basic herbs and salt. He even brought out pre-made bouillabaisse and prepared a special dessert. The parents were blown away by the meal, especially the ice cream, which was unlike anything they had ever tasted in their secluded kingdom. That night, Takumi noticed spirits floating around him, drawn to his high magic power. Sophia joined him, and they shared a quiet moment looking out over her homeland. She felt a deep sense of peace being back, knowing that she was now a free woman and a powerful adventurer who could visit whenever she wished. News of their arrival quickly reached the royal palace. King Forselti and Prime Minister Baltza discussed the situation, noting that Takumi had tamed a dragon horse and a legendary arachne, feats never before recorded. They also realized that Takumi was the one who had healed Sophia's incurable curse. While the king decided not to interfere with them, he expressed disgust toward Earl Hordia, the corrupt noble who had originally caused Sophia's enslavement 50 years ago. Unfortunately, the news also reached Earl Hordia. Now an old man, he remained obsessed with Sophia and was enraged to hear she had been cured. He ordered his subordinates to kidnap her and bring her back at any cost. Since he couldn't easily send elven soldiers into human territory, he contacted dark guilds in the Valkyra kingdom to do his dirty work, completely unaware that he was picking a fight with an A-rank party and an S-rank monster. After 3 days, Takumi's group began their journey back to Volton. Along the way, Sophia felt a strange, weak spiritual call for help coming from the west. Following her intuition, Takumi diverted the carriage toward the coast. They discovered the ruins of an old town that had become a massive monster nest. The air was thick with dark energy, and the area was crawling with the undead. Zombies, ghouls, and skeletons swarmed the group. Takumi, Akin, and Leva used powerful light magic to wipe out the weaker enemies, while the others engaged the stronger skeleton knights. To handle the overwhelming numbers, Takumi summoned his massive golem, Titan, and deployed a sanctuary field, a massive barrier of purifying light that weakened all undead within range. The leader of the nest, a 10-foot-tall skeleton king in black armor, emerged and let out a deafening roar. While his team held off the subordinates, Takumi charged the boss. The battle was intense, pushing Takumi to unlock a new mind's eye ability, allowing him to see and react to every movement with perfect clarity. Using his ice spear and decomposition magic, Takumi methodically dismantled the Skeleton King's defenses. He shattered the boss's knee armor and froze its joints, causing the massive creature to collapse. With a final, magic-loaded strike to its head, Takumi used his decomposition power to turn the monster's skull into dust, ending the threat and clearing the ruin. After defeating the Skeleton King, the group collected magic stones and high-quality armor left behind by the undead. Sophia discovered a small, glowing seed that had been stuck inside the boss. She revealed it was a seed of the World Tree, which normally purifies the world's energy, but had been corrupted and used by the Skeleton King to gain power. The seed was weak and needed light attribute magic to sprout. Takumi, Akin, and Leva took turns pouring their massive mana reserves into the seed. Takumi's stats had reached elite levels, and he even unlocked a new Mind's Eye skill during the fight, yet the seed was like a sponge, nearly draining him and Akin before Leva finally topped it off. They planted it near the ruined spring, and Takumi used his magic to purify the water and the surrounding soil. The transformation was instant. To everyone's shock, the seed sprouted and grew into a 3-foot tree with lush leaves in seconds. Sophia explained that this was now a spirit tree. Knowing that a monster nest becoming a sanctuary would draw attention, Takumi and Leva quickly built 100 stone stakes enchanted with holy barriers to protect the area. Within just a few days, the tree grew to over 30 feet tall. The barren, cursed land turned into a lush paradise covered in grass and flowers. Spirits of all elements, water, wind, and light, began to swarm the area, drawn by the pure energy. Sophia warned that this was actually a political nightmare. The elven kingdom of Igarl struggles to make these seeds sprout, and they would be furious or jealous to find one growing so perfectly in human land. To keep their spirit paradise a secret, Takumi installed advanced concealment and perception-blocking devices to hide the entire area from outsiders. He also had Titan build a squad of stone golems to patrol the perimeter. Over the next 2 months, the tree reached over 60 feet in height. Takumi decided to make this place a permanent secondary home. He and Leva used earth magic and alchemy to build a sturdy stone house near the tree, complete with reinforced glass windows. To make travel easy, he installed a private teleportation gate in the cellar, linking the sanctuary directly to his mansion in Volton. What started as a monster hunt had turned into the creation of a secret, sacred forest that Takumi and his wives could use as a private retreat.